I don't understand how my taxes should go for an inmate prisoner.
You pay so much money in taxes for jails that is a pipeline to remain in jail. The recidivism rate, what is it, 75%? If you actually cared about wasting your tax dollars, you'd be urging for prison reform. You don't care about the money. You care about how you feel. This is the performance. This is the crossfire of today's age. It is a bunch of people sitting around having a performative conversation so that they can have attention for their social media. And I'm not saying that any of these people are inherently bad for that, but this is what it is. It is political dogfighting. None of this is productive. This just makes you feel good about your side. This isn't like a place where you get into the mindset where you're like, hey, let's sit down and let's talk. And then the audience that engages gets into that same mindset. All right, listen, I've been curious to see this for a while. So we're going to take a look at it. That's all I got to say. Sorry if some of the audio is a little funky. It is what it is. Let's get going.
Like, what's the problem with xenophobic? Like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Do you think that's better for Americans in general?
Not really. It sounds like you're trying to exclude an entire group of people, especially in America. It's like a whole melting pot. That's why we're so successful.
Xenophobic nationalism is better. We should have a coherent culture.
Let me know if the audio is a little weird on TikTok.
Everyone should be a part of the same culture.
They don't have to all be... Okay. Xenophobic means you don't like other countries, right? Why? Our culture isn't supposed to be founded on hating other people.
You get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
I mean, look, I gotta be
so I guess we're fine then, huh?
honest with you. Like, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. Hi, I'm Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report, and today I am surrounded by 20 conservatives.
I still think that this is one of the least productive things I've ever seen. It's really just like a gallery of gotcha gallery, you know?
My first claim is Trump's attack on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like he's just a virtue signaling asshole. I don't think I mean, maybe. I don't know how that gives the companies more power. I feel like everything is just a virtue signal. I don't think Trump really cares about the majority of the things that he does. I think it's more of like, oh, there's a good amount of racist people who engage with me, and I'm just going to make them happy because I don't care about this. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure there are people who don't like DEI because they feel like it's robbing opportunities from white people. I don't really see that happening. We've been doing some kind of affirmative action programs for a while. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but... Let's see, though. I don't see how it could give companies more power, but I'm sure he'll go into it. Ooh. I'd always lose. I'm so fat.
Sorry.
No worries.
All right. I think I have a slight issue with the back end of the premise. I guess Trump's attacks on DEI being a real goal to, give corporations more power. I'd rather center the conversation around the democratic, especially as conservatives, the issues that people have with DEI and why I believe Trump would, want to support the issues that, people are voting for him.
I'm just changing the question. Yeah, I can understand some of the issues maybe people feel with DEI. It's end of the line. What word am I looking for? Oh my God, it's end of the line inclusiveness, right? The way that you generally should work it out is to do it at the beginning, right? Like opportunities from when you're born. People are born into lower income areas, and they get completely screwed out of even getting the opportunity to go to a decent school, get a decent education, get a decent job, et cetera, et cetera. So you're better off starting at the bottom. Now we're here, starting at the bottom to build people up at the start rather than to try to forcefully include them in at the end. But there are still places that have business practices, and it's not even like the entire business, but it's like whoever the hiring manager might be, where there's going to be favoritism towards a certain group. And it's generally going to be whatever skin color that person is, I would say, or sometimes, not always. But like I used to work for a bus company, and all the mechanics were Hispanic, and the foreman was Hispanic. And I'm sure that there was probably a reason for that. There were still white mechanics. It's not like they were gone, but that kind of stuff happened. So it's like, hey, we're going to put in a quota so you accept a certain number of people from different ethnicities. Is it perfect? No, but it's probably better than not having it at all.
I mean, I'm talking about his whole attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA,
Sure.
right? You know that.
Right.
What is DEI?
In government agencies.
What is A?
The A being for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum.
I think it's mostly a virtue signal to racist people. who are just angry at black people on that are very comfortable voting for Trump.
Right, wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being, inaccessible.
That is what that is. No, that's what DEI is.
Accessible to get into a job. It rather wants to de-incentivize corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases. Right.
Okay, but DEIA
Right.
is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure.
Oh, wait, what is this?
Or that you have different communities that have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean within government agencies, it means things like let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people.
Is this different from affirmative action? Wait, hold on a second. I didn't even know this. I'm thinking that DEI is like this, the same thing as affirmative action. While both DEI, it's DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and affirmative action aim to address inequalities, DEIA focuses on creating more inclusive and equitable environments for everybody, encompassing a broader range of factors beyond just representation, while affirmative action uses targeted measures such as a preferential treatment to address past discrimination. Wait, doesn't that mean that DEIA is better? This creates inclusive environments. People feel valued. Wait, this doesn't even sound just like, wait, this sounds better than affirmative action. Why do people have a problem with DEI? Is this just like the new woke slur? Ease up a cultural transformation and ongoing efforts to create a supportive, inclusive workspace. I don't understand what the problem with that is. I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking it's just another form of affirmative action. It sounds like it's a better form of affirmative action. It sounds like progress in the right direction. Why are people so offended by this? I think it's just a woke slur. I think that's all it really is. Okay.
People can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town,
Sure.
metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job exists.
This is where it begins.
The darker part of town. You know what I'm saying?
But this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities.
Well, then why rescind DEIA requirements in government agencies?
Because the problem with DEIA is their
Here, we already know. I didn't even know what DEI. I didn't know the A was accessibility. I didn't know that it wasn't just DEI. It's DEIA, right? That accessibility is a big factor. I'm assuming that has to do with people with disabilities, or maybe just general accessibility to workforce. This guy didn't know that either, but he's like, yeah, DEI. He's speaking with too much confidence. At that point, I'd be like, all right, I got to take a step back and reevaluate my position because I'm just
may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with
Do
corporations.
you have
it
the evidence of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are government agencies that are hiring people on not true, proper bases. We can even look
like, what? Like, where's that happening?
at
I mean, like that. See, this thing is that might be happening. There's nothing that you could ever do that's going to be 100% positive. So there's going to be a drawback. The idea is to engage in a way that overall has a better outcome. So even if there is some lighter instances of that happening, is it really enough to just throw the whole program away? Probably not. Like, we know that that's how these things work. We know that's how life works. All right, obviously.
I mean,
we can look at
would you
the
have
DNCs.
any evidence that that's happening?
Yeah, even the
It's like you switch to a new shampoo, and it's like really good. Your hair feels better, your skin feels better, but it's like $3 more. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, that's what we're talking about here.
DNC's nomination of Kamala as president this year. There was no reason to nominate Kamala as she wasn't democratically selected. She wasn't.
Well, the DNC technically is a private organization. Also, didn't Trump just get it too? Wait, did they do a whole thing for Trump? Did they do a whole election process for Trump too? No. Okay, so that sounds stupid. That's number one. Number two, she was the vice president. Now, granted, I won't say we had the best options for Democrats, but like, she made the most sense. So now he's saying that she was just a DEI hire. She was the vice president. She made the most logical sense. They didn't have enough time to really prop somebody else up. I'd say that's a pretty big reason why, one of the factors why she didn't win, is because they didn't really have enough time to go through a selection process and then have her campaign and run. And then it was like a bare bones routine at that point. What is he talking about? That she was just a DEI hire? I mean, she was what are you talking about? Wasn't she like a district attorney or something in fucking California? What is he talking about? A DEI hire?
She didn't go through a single primary. None of these things.
So you're saying that?
So just to be clear, she did. She went through the primary to be the vice president the previous election. This was just a very wonky one.
Kamala was the vice president of the United States after
Yes.
the president drops out 2 months before the convention. You think that's a DEI
She wasn't
hire?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that party.
Okay, but this was a very different circumstance. And again, she was democratically selected the previous term. And normally, if Biden ran again, she would just be the vice president again, right? So this time they're like, oh, we got to kind of shift it up. We have 2 months instead of a year or so. Guess we're just have to throw her in there. Okay.
There were
for
not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries.
I don't think anybody really cares about this. The conservatives like cry, bitch, and moan about this talking point, and it's the same conservatives that complained that Kamala didn't go through the due process or whatever to become get the nomination, despite the fact that she was the vice president and she only had like 2 months. Those are the same conservatives who say that like January 6th was not an insurrection, despite the fact that it was factually an insurrection, and Donald Trump pardoned all those people, and Donald Trump refused to hang the memorial that was signed into law that would honor January 6th police officers. So he very clearly wanted January 6th to happen. So I don't really understand. You guys are like, the cognitive dissonance is insane.
Prior to 1972,
Well, sure,
the
but
Democratic Party.
this isn't before
Well, I
1972.
understand, but what did you think you were going to run primaries in those 2 months?
Well,
I mean,
sure,
Joe Biden should have dropped out
even
3 years
even
ago.
before.
Probably. That's probably true.
Well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primary, she didn't. She wasn't the next man up.
That's not how it works, right? Like, let's be real. The reason that Kamala was the vice president to Joe Biden is because she wasn't, like, part of it had to do, of course, with their ethnicity. She was a woman, and she was like a brown woman, right? But this is how everything works. You usually are going to take a vice president that's qualified to shore up whatever issues you have. Like, why did Trump run with Pence in the first place? Because Pence was a older, more established political individual that gave Trump credibility, right? Why did Trump fire him? Because he refused to, break the law and go against the Constitution and give Trump the presidency in 2020. Why did he take Vance, a younger, more charismatic, smooth-talking, makeup-wearing guy, offset Trump a little bit? Why did Kamala, whatever, choose Tim Walz, older white guy that was a little bit more like he liked guns? This is how all these things work. It doesn't mean that they're not qualified, but she's probably the most qualified person in general. And we don't even go based on pure qualifications. Like, Trump isn't qualified for office. The reason that Trump got into office is because he's a charismatic populist. Like, what are you talking about? He's not qualified at all. He's running the country to the ground. What is he talking about?
None of this. She wasn't the next person.
She was the vice president.
Didn't we fire, like, the attorney general? Didn't we fire, like, a 4-star general that was black for a 3-star general that hadn't even been in the military in the years? We talk about DEI.
Right, of course, but she wasn't in primaries.
Detail. But
Right,
listen,
well,
aside from, I would have might have wanted a different candidate as well. But that has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say you need to search for a wide range of candidates, not necessarily give any
DUI hire.
different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job.
Sure.
You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If you have folks who
Sure, I just don't like that. I've been convinced that the words DEI mean bad.
identify.
It's like the words woke nowadays. Everybody thinks like woke is the word. I'm tired of it. Everything is woke. Everything you call everything woke. Woke used to mean that you think that everybody should, I don't know, fucking cut off their legs so that we can honor people in wheelchairs. Now woke just means you think that trans people shouldn't die. It's like, shut the fuck up with the word woke. DEI too. DEI is another like forced slur. That's like half the slogan. It's like, let's just take a word that's normal and let's make it sound bad. It's just stupid.
As trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not. This is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this is all
But you're
about.
cherry picking the portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issues. Conservatives don't have issues with.
So then where's the replacement for DEI? It's not. This is the problem. Let's say that's true, which I don't even believe. Let's say it's true what he's saying. It's like, conservatives only have issues with like 20% of DEI that has this issue. So where's your counter proposition? Why isn't it like, we're going to change DEI. We're going to name it, fun inclusive time. FIT. I don't know. We'll trigger the fatties with that one. No, we'll name it fun inclusive time or something. And it's going to be DEI without the bad. Why is that not a counter proposal? It's because what he's saying is not true. he's just saying things because he feels cornered.
The whole DEI apparatus within our government was a function of doing exactly what I said. Had nothing to do with quotas.
It is unfortunate that those things get taken out, and there might not have been specific.
What else is it trying to take out?
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs.
Yeah, that's exactly how things are running right now. Am I right? Linda McMahon, Department of Education, a wrestler's wife whose claim to fame was pretending she was disabled for years on WWE. Great arc, by the way. Great arc. That's the person to destroy the Department of Education. That's the most qualified individual. That's so interesting. It's actually very interesting when it comes to the Department of Education because there's all these talks about we should cut it because it's been instituted since 1979. And since then, we've stagnated in success. Some areas we've slightly gone down. That means it's not working. Maybe. Or maybe you could acknowledge that schools run off of funding that comes from like property taxes, local taxes. And we've seen the middle and lower class shrink since what year? Oh, 1980. Pretty significantly. So if the Department of Education, one of the functions it does is give underfunded schools more funding, and we've had more underfunded schools because there's less money in the pockets of the middle class and lower class, by that logic, the fact that it is stagnated is a success because there's less funding that are going into these schools. So it's like nobody wants to look at the context. They just want to cry about it. And like, why do you think they want to cut the Department of Education? I really don't know. Part of me thinks it's just to keep people stupid. I mean, like, maybe this is a conspiracy theory, but part of me thinks that the conservatives just want to keep people really stupid because stupid people vote for Trump and join the military. I know that sounds really mean, but like people that don't have economic opportunity join the military for economic opportunity. They do it so they can have healthcare and go to school. And then we have a lot of very uneducated people that vote Republican. And I'm not saying Republican values are fundamentally uneducated. The idea of less government control and less micromanaged control. That's why I like universal basic income as a concept, because it's not like it's not micromanaged like a lot of other welfare programs. But like this Republican Party is stupid. It's not the values, it's the way that they're expressed. They're stupid. Everything that they don't want to believe is a conspiracy. Trump losing the 2020 election is a conspiracy. Vaccines are a conspiracy. Climate change is a conspiracy. Everything is a conspiracy. Everything. That's how they operate within their fucking brains. Everything is a conspiracy. So, like, I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why they want to, maybe. Also, Russia's amazing. I don't even know how we got there. 50 years ago, conservatives would have been, pretty charged up against Russia. Nowadays, they're bending over. I would say backwards, but I think it's frontwards, and they're spreading their ass open for them.
People getting pushed into positions they have no qualifications.
There is no evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies.
That's not true. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to pull up for you. You can't.
Give me one example.
You can't ask.
You could just memorize it, I guess. I don't know.
Me to pull up numbers when I'm not able to sit here and look on a computer for you. But these are.
Why don't you just memorize it? Didn't you guys get a rundown of the potential prompts?
That conservatives.
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please return your seat.
Oh, fuck you, dude. Oh, that guy ran fast. I wonder how.
See ya.
Okay, so I think the roots issue with DEI isn't what...
I feel like it's always the same people, right? Every single time it's the same group of fucking conservatives that live in California just so that they can get like their claim to fame going on the Jubilee.
The previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who might need help. The issue is, and I kind of referred to this before, when you have agencies and systems, what tends to happen when you have government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems get abused. And I think unequivocally, sure, DEI was heavily abused in practice.
He's not wrong about the first part, like, but how is it getting abused in practice? I've honestly never heard of DEI getting abused ever.
It was great in theory. It's idealistic, which is sure is fine, that a lot of people can get behind, but it was abused.
The other guy said pretty much the same thing. What evidence does he have that it was abused on this like mass level? Like I said, everything is going to get abused to some extent. Welfare, overall, good. There are people who abuse welfare, absolutely. Taxes, great. There are people who abuse taxes, specifically rich people, right? So how does it get abused? I need to know that.
In a lot of ways. When you have actors, like we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not going to cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of gender, race, right? That is an abuse of a system.
I'm so sorry. That was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. First of all, I acknowledge that sometimes things can get a little bit cringe. Little Mermaid felt like they were just trying to make a black Little Mermaid as like a virtue signal. That being said, it's acting. It makes if we've always done this. How many times do you think that there were any? Do you think we did this for like Italian mob movies? Do you think that there was like a black guy who showed up like, listen, you are not an Italian mobster. We cannot take you. So now we're doing different movies where it's like, yeah, we want to go in a different direction. We want to go in a direction that's more demographically accurate of the United States, no longer being 90% white and now being 60% white. If you don't count white Hispanic people, which I do. So the numbers would skyrocket. So like, listen, we want to be a little like, I don't understand. Why is that bad? This is actor. Like, what a bad actors. Literally, your race matters based on the role that you're doing. If you want like a badass, like, you know, sassy black woman, you can't hire some fucking white Jewish guy. Like, what are you talking about? This was the worst example. Talk about Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. Don't talk about acting. It's acting. That's like the worst way that you could possibly even. What do you want people to do? Put on whiteface or blackface when they do roles? This is just stupid. What a dumb example. What the fuck?
It's no longer fair, but more about just perpetuating
acting?
One aspect of.
Dude, kick this guy off. He said acting.
You know, visual compelling aspects. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is companies are going to say, well, we want to look the most diverse.
Okay,
and what that is it's moral grandstanding. It's that because we have more black women, we sell better soda. Like that.
Just don't buy the soda.
That is not.
Well, this is.
Wait, what black women are. What? Soda? Dude, these examples are like the least relatable I've ever heard. Soda? I just buy Sprite because it doesn't have caffeine. I like the taste. I don't think I've ever seen a person on a soda on a soda bottle in my entire life. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen it. The closest person on a soda bottle is Dr. Pepper, and I don't even see his face. I just see his signature. So what is he talking about? This guy's just saying things. It's insane.
That's getting a little far afield from what Trump's DEI orders are. But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the 90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me, and I was doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of white Jewish guys doing this stuff, like, you know, Seinfeld. It's very funny. By the way, I'm not dog whistling. Okay, I got a little Jew in me too. All right. Relax. But yeah, it's a lot of funny guys, you know.
A second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year. And I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or
there's a lot of political people who used to be actors. Isn't that so strange?
Someone like me was centered. So, you know, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a
and that's a great point. Maybe Hollywood is overcorrected. And I think overcorrectness is like the bane of our existence almost. Feminism, very necessary, very important, giving women equal rights. In some instances, it's overcorrected. On TikTok, I call it TikTok feminism, where you got like a lot of young people who have never really experienced a whole lot of oppression associated with particular identities, complaining and being annoying and using it to be hateful to other groups that they consider the enemy. We see this in male advocation as well. You know, you have the whole red pill movement. Terrible, like just hateful of women, but there is male advocation. So we go from like, hey, we need to advocate for a thing to like going too far. That might be that's a great conversation to have. These people aren't trying to have that conversation. They're just trying to get rid of DEI, which is just stupid.
Governmental level, the DEIA directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years, there's nothing, I don't know what you mean by abuse on it, but there was no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances. It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is like one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns. And that's important because you want low-income people to have the same sort of like opportunities to see these things as wealthy people.
That makes sense, because the only people who can really afford to be an unpaid intern are wealthy people. Wealthy kids whose parents can be like, yeah, go work for free, we can cover you. Poor kids can't afford to do that. And so obviously it makes sense to pay your interns because of that, for sure.
You know, my kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job.
I think what's happening is we're talking about two different things.
So is that part of DEIA? That's a great thing.
Well, but I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making it
Okay, to promote DEIA, agencies are encouraged to increase paid internships and reduce the practice of employing unpaid interns. This doesn't even seem like that they have to do this. They're just told that they should be doing that. I imagine that there's some incentives through some kind of subsidies or something, but okay, that's a great idea. That's probably the best way I've ever seen to be more inclusive to people, is to just be like, hey, you have to pay your interns so that poor people can actually do this. You can give everybody a shot.
You're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying Trump, but I think the American people as a whole.
Say why Trump? What?
Whole have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected DEI because
I don't think a majority of Americans know what DEIA is.
That may be the case.
That's true. Yeah.
But again, my point is, we're talking about.
I think most people voted for Trump because they want they are tired of some of the political sensitivity. They're tired of people like trying to speak. They're tired of people wanting to appease everybody, maybe like the way that they talk, which is a problem that I think Democrats have all the time. Is they're so desperate to not offend anybody that they don't say things that should be said. My two biggest examples are probably like trans women in sports, and when it comes to the war in Ukraine and Russia, like for trans women in sports, trans women are women, trans men are men, but going through a male puberty probably going to give you an advantage. Democrats refuse to acknowledge that. Right now, conservatives mostly just say that because they hate trans people for the most part. Not all conservatives, but definitely like your more mainstream conservatives. They're just saying that because they do not like trans people. We know that that's part of the White House's agenda because they banned the cancer research because they saw transgenic mice, which they interpreted as transgender. So that's just them hating trans people so much they got rid of cancer research. That's what transgenic mice are associated with. Mice with the cells of humans that you could use to test cancer on. Right. But still, it's good to acknowledge that because at least you'd be like, okay, like maybe that sounds a little hurtful to some people, but at the end of the day, it's the right thing. Or Ukraine, people will be like, oh, so you support endless war? Yes. Until Russia fucks off, I support endless war. Give as much money to Ukraine as they need. Just say these things. Don't worry about being a little offensive. Just say things that might be controversial in a respectful way. And I think that Trump represents the opposite of that. He's overcorrecting for that. He lies constantly in a way that no other politician has ever really lied before. He literally just makes up numbers. He inflates almost it's actually insane. But yeah, like how he lied about $300 billion worth of Ukraine. It's insane. It's like $122 billion. Get the fuck out of here.
Abuse of a system. What you're talking about is not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing were, hey, because you're white, you can't do this. And
I've honestly never seen that before in my life. I live in New York, but
they're both like do this thing where they create systems and then they created the.
I think a lot of this is like online gaslighting. Like I'm sure some of this is happening to some degree. But a lot of this is online gaslighting. Like they go on the internet and they're constantly, like if you want to be outraged by something, you will find it constantly. The internet gives you what you want to see. And sometimes what you want to see is you being offended all the time. And if your feed is constantly full of things that say that white people are the victim, then like you are being psyoped into thinking white people are the ultimate victim. And it's not just for white people. It's for any group of people. That's what the internet does. It tries to sell you what's going to make you engage. And what makes a lot of people engage is anger.
The whole idea of woke, and then they backed away, and then conservatives say woke, and then they're like, we don't know what woke is. They created DEI. Biden literally said Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all of a sudden,
if he said that, that's based as hell. That's being honest about the way that he's representing his campaign. She's still incredibly qualified, but like obviously the optics matter. Like no shit, sorry.
Democrats for the rest after that.
Like I said, that's why Trump had to run with Vance, because he was somebody who was like very politically established and an older person that brought credibility to his campaign. Like what are you talking about? You're acting like this is like a new thing to shore up any optical, issues with your campaign.
That's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally said that. And then we have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not living in reality.
Biden wanted to make sure that there was that there was an opportunity for a black woman to be his vice president.
Yes, but so why did Democrats move away from that and say no, it wasn't because she was a black woman? My point is that
it's not because.
Damn, 10 minutes in and they got him on one little thing and everybody's creaming.
She's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman. But
to be honest with you, I've never heard him say that. If he did, I've already said it doesn't really matter, but I've never heard him actually say that.
That's what they said. Why did they say that then?
No, because there were plenty of black women, right? Like he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who
Michelle Obama. Let's get Michelle Obama in the house, guys.
would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I don't believe that.
No, that's not. Conservatives aren't saying that there aren't.
Could you imagine Michelle Obama ran for president and then Barack Obama ran for vice president? Because I was looking into it. Apparently, even if you've done 2 terms, you could still run for president. I mean, vice president rather. So that's what I asked Twitter's AI. And it told me that you can. So if that Barack, let's get this party started, baby.
Because again, and even in the Republican Party right now, and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and
J.D. Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
No, but if
I don't understand why he said that. What?
If J.D. Vance was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her.
Oh my God, these guys are creating like fantasy scenarios just so they can jizz.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not here to defend the Democrats' choice on every policy, but there is one party in this country that is identitarian. There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party.
That is true.
85%.
Majority white and uneducated.
of Republicans are white. That's just the reality.
So
of it.
does that
Some
mean
people don't necessarily
hold
have a
on,
problem with that.
but here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective government? What does race have to do? What does race have to do? Hold on. What does
Donald
race?
Trump didn't have to
what
say
does race
my
have
vice
to do?
president's going to be a white male.
No.
Because they all knew it was going to be.
No, this is the.
Right, I understand what he's saying. Yeah, so basically what he's saying is that, like, that's the status quo. You don't have to announce JD Vance is a white guy. You just see that it's a white guy. I mean, not that Biden had to announce that, but I don't even know if that's true. I've never heard that before in my life, that he announced that she was a black woman.
What does race have to?
Either way, it doesn't matter. Trump was unqualified to be president. We're sitting here like acting like he was qualified. There's no qualifications that this guy has to be president. He didn't even do very good in his first term. In his first term, he just deficit spent when we had a stable economy, and then we hit COVID, and then he pushed conspiracy theories that it wasn't real. Which made it worse. How qualified was he? I don't understand. Biden came in, dealt with like the fallout of COVID, got us into a pretty stable place. Really didn't do a very bad job. I don't understand. So if we're talking about qualifications, Trump was not qualified. JD Vance literally hates Trump. So like the fact that he's not really qualified to be Trump's vice president because he hates him, right? So like nobody was qualified. You have a WWE wrestler inside of the Department of Education. You have a vaccine conspiracy theorist inside of the Department of Health. Like, who's qualified here? I don't understand.
Do with
you have the guy who's sitting here doing advertisements at Steak and Shake talking about how the measles vaccine was so bad you could just get herd immunity, even though like 5,000 people were dying a year to the measles. Meanwhile, you get a vaccine and you're like much more protected and people are safer. Like, what is he talking about? Stop talking about qualifications. Nobody that Donald Trump elects is fucking qualified for whatever they're doing. What are you talking about? Elon Musk runs Doge and they're finding waste, fraud, and abuse. They just fired a ton of people whose jobs were actually to find waste, fraud, and abuse, and they have the receipts for it. Hundreds of billions of dollars by these inspector generals. And they were fired, some of them because they were looking into Elon Musk. Meanwhile, the top 5 things, sorry for the banging, the top 5 things that were listed on the Doge website had to get retracted because they were gross exaggerations or not even real. And so we're sitting here talking, what are you talking about? Qualifications, what the fuck? This is why DEI needs to exist, because the black people are more qualified, right? They fired like a black general, a 4-star general, to have to give like a drunk 3-star general a position in the cabinet. Is that not like, that's why we need DEI, because people will just not hire fucking people of different marginalized groups.
Running an effective government. What does race have to do? If let's say DEI on the micro level.
I will tell you right now.
DEI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I going to get better nuggets
Listen, I'll ask you a question.
if the cashier is black or white? What does that have to do with anything?
I'll tell you.
Maybe. I don't know. What are you yelling?
But first of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same like physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad...
The guy who just got absolutely washed out was just like, no, that's not true.
...representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protects people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me what protects people from discrimination in housing and in work and hiring or getting loans? It's all statutes. It's all statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better can defend that point specifically.
So you don't know how to respond to that one, huh?
Better than me.
All right, please return to your seat.
Hi. How are you? Good.
These are conservatives? These are conservatives for real? I don't know, man. God bless you, but don't look that conservative to me. I don't know.
Okay, when it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person...
This DEI conversation is so boring. I would really like to move on to the next prompt.
...was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right?
Sure, yeah.
So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism?
We haven't. Bro, I'm so... Dude, I grew up... Okay. I grew up like normally. And a lot of these people are young and they want to be content creators and they just sit online and they think that racism is dead in the world. And I'm sitting here, I'm 34 years old. I worked a real job for like over a decade. And like racism still exists everywhere, and not even all of it's not even like that bad. I know that sounds terrible. It's not good, but like I said before, my foreman was a Hispanic dude. Guess what? Almost all the other mechanics were Hispanic dudes. Is there probably a level of racism there? Probably, you know, maybe he prefers to hire Hispanic guys. You know, he always treated me well. You know, there are other white dudes and black dudes there. But, like, there was probably a little bit of, like, some kind of subconscious bias there. Like, people in general feel more comfortable with people that look like them before they get to know somebody. So it's like that kind of exists. And then, like, I've heard some of the conversations that these mechanics will have, and they don't like certain groups of people like this. And it's not just white people, it's everybody. I don't think the most racism I've ever seen come out of anybody are the mechanics. They were more racist than any of the white people I heard talking. Let me just tell you, okay? I'm not saying that Hispanic people are more racist. I'm just saying in that environment. So, like, we live in this pretend fantasy world where it's like, oh, racism is dead. No, it's not. You know it's not. Shut the fuck up. You're full of shit. Or you're a kid that's, like, never experienced the real world. It's very real. It's not just gone. It didn't magically disappear. So I don't know what he's talking about.
So would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice like some form of, white supremacy. I think actually,
Well, I don't know about white supremacy, but okay.
like, we all do to some degree.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems
Why do we need to go to... Okay, I guess it's DEI, fine.
like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Oh, it seems like a big issue. I mean, the Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
That is true.
Well, the reason why they've done something like that, and I
Is why?
think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections back for their own children.
What children are threatened by trans people? The answer is none. Listen, I understand the one topic where this matters is when it comes to sports. I understand someone who goes through a male puberty is going to probably have an advantage. Outside of that, how is it protecting children? Oh, well, there's one story that I heard 3 years ago where someone pretended to be trans and went to the women's restroom and did something wrong. Well, here's a couple things. First and foremost, you guys don't believe gun laws will stop people from committing gun crimes. So why would this law prevent people from going into bathrooms and assaulting people? That's number one. Number two, there is huge sexual assault scandals in the church. How come you're not demonizing all priests? I don't understand. Okay. Plus, just to be clear, you don't have the children argument anymore. Donald Trump, what did he do? He pressured Romania to lift the travel ban on Andrew Tate because they were friends. Because they are friendly. And this guy, I've seen videos of him bragging about grooming a 15-year-old girl. It's actually insane. He talks about how to isolate women as part of his business practice, and people are like, I don't have enough evidence because you don't want to look for it. So just to be clear, Donald Trump is not the representation of somebody who wants to protect children. So, and it's a virtue signal. You don't care about kids. It's the same thing as the abortion virtue signal. Oh, don't get abortions. I care about kids. But the second they're born, it's like we have to cut funding, welfare services, food stamps for kids. They do not care about kids. You do not care about kids. You are pretending to care about kids because you are uncomfortable with the existence of trans people. And you let your feelings guide your life instead of facts guiding your life. Your biggest moral point of reference is a book that has no established age of consent other than when a girl starts her period, she can get married to a grown adult. And you want to tell me that you think that you want to convince me that you care about children? Oh, okay. I don't believe you. I actually don't believe you. While you're trying to cut funding for the Department of Education, which is the only reason why we've even had stagnating test scores, because funding for schooling individually in individual areas has been going down because the middle class is going down. So is the lower class. So you to explain this to me. Every single way that you vote is to cut access to education, healthcare, food for children. But you care about kids in a bathroom because a trans woman might go in there, even though you have no actual evidence, but you let your kids around the priests who had a massive scandal going on for sexual abuse. Okay. You know what? You guys make a lot of sense. You guys are speaking facts.
Because children are being stripped away from
Who's
their
their
parents.
own children?
Parents?
Children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a premise to remove and strip parental rights for children
Wow, how often is that happening? Can you give me a couple examples?
who maybe they are rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide gender affirming care?
I do not agree with that. Do you?
I do, yeah. Yeah.
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions with the kids.
If a child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18, they should not be able to consent to a sex change.
Well, they're not getting a sex change, so that's good. You can't get any surgeries before you're 18 or 16. But then again, in some states, you guys have the age of consent set to 16. So actually, I guess maybe this is a fun thing that always gets me. It's like the age of consent in a lot of these states is 16. So why are you saying 18? Why haven't you changed age of consent? It's okay for a kid to have sex with an adult when they're 16, but it's not okay for them to transition. Which one sounds like it's probably more harmful? Maybe the really vulnerable child having sex with a grown adult. That's really weird to me. Oh, no, wait, the medication that they've had decades of research on that has, from all the evidence we have, positive outcomes for children who go through the process of transitioning in a positive, productive way. That one probably is bad, right? Because we don't care, right? Because we don't respect medical institutions. All right, because that's crazy, but I do believe in an imaginary friend that I pray to, my favorite football team. That's not crazy, but it is crazy if we have decades of scientific research that suggests that this is the best way to have positive mental health outcomes for some young people. This is really, oh, fuck. Okay, we're doing a good job here.
Now, in terms of a DEI initiative, the reason why there's military bans on trans women and trans men is because they do not have the ability to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment as well.
Says who? Says who? Because you said so? What are you talking about? That's not indicated anywhere in any statistic ever made in any capacity ever that you ever seen in your entire life. You just made that up. Okay? People can go on hormones and still be okay. I've seen more, unless you're going to sit here and say we need to ban all powerlifters, bodybuilders, and strongmen, competitive ones, from working, shut the fuck up. Dude, there are so many people that I know that are on gear. Okay? Does it have an impact on your mood? Sure. Does it mean that you can't engage? No, idiot. What are you talking about? You just made that up. 99% plus of roles in the military are non-combat roles. You talk about like mechanics, people doing like just fucking computer work. They're too unstable to be able to function. What are you talking about? That's not even expressed anywhere. There's no statistic that says that. Okay? Just because trans people can struggle with mental health problems sometimes, mostly because people like this will literally lie to try to strip away their fundamental human rights, doesn't mean they don't deserve work. It's so crazy because, again, this is another example that you have. Here's the way that I look at this. I think everybody should do the best that they can to get a job. If you need access to transitioning to get a job, I think that we should provide you access to that. Okay? That's just it. That's as far as we need to go. There's nothing else we need to talk about. I want people to work. If this is what you need to do to work, I'll pay for it. Universal healthcare. I make more money than you. The people who are like, I don't want to use my money for that. You're poor. Shut the fuck up. Listen, I'll pay for it. I don't care. We should as a society. Like, let people have access to these things. Who gives a shit? This is so ridiculous.
As well as depression pills, as well as different mood stabilizer pills.
Depression pills?
And so when you go out to combat, do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your, whether that be hormone, estrogen, or whatever?
Oh, wait, what if the military made this decision? What if, I'm not in the military. Military doesn't say that this is bad. It was Donald Trump who said it was bad and decided to ban it as a virtue signal. Okay? Also, if the military said, hey, trans women and trans men are great, but maybe they shouldn't do combat roles, that's fine. I don't care. Whatever the military says as an institution is fine. I still trust institutions, generally speaking, enough to say that. Okay? So, like, if they said, like, listen, this person or this person, maybe they're not going to be able to do combat roles because they have a very strict hormone or medication regimen, okay, that's fair enough. But the majority of roles in the military are non-combat, so why the fuck do I care? Why do I give a shit? Also, conservatives are the same people saying that, like, depression isn't real, just go exercise. Isn't the military a big form of exercise? Wouldn't, by your logic, just the exercise be reducing their dependency on different drugs? And by the way, exercise can be fantastic for your mental health, so there is a level of truth to that. But like all of these different compounding factors just makes you look like an idiot. Like you sit down with a bunch of other people that agree with you and you talk and you sound stupid and you're just completely uncontested. So you feel confident about this shit.
Whatever it may be, while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war.
Of the opposing team? The opposing war? The opposing war? What the fuck? That's just the way you said it is strange.
Executive orders that Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with agencies that have nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA, they just revoked the ability of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Well,
What are we talking about here?
I don't even know what that is. And you want to know what? I guess I have to Google it now. Fuck. I hate words.
Okay, well,
Honestly, like they're rewriting history.
well, that's your perspective, right? But at the end
Well, that's what's happening. Didn't they just like destroy all, or they want to destroy all the information associated with the plane because the plane's like name was like Enola Gay, and it's like, oh, there's gay, and they get it out of the military. It's like weird.
of the day,
The Tuskegee Airmen were African military pilots and airmen who served during World War II, known for their valor and skill, who paved the way to integration in the U.S. military. What's wrong with why would we not teach this? Like, this sounds like a decent idea. Who cares?
if a person
Tuskegee Airmen, we can all agree, existed,
just
right?
listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employer, and if you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort
And then DEI would make it harder for you to do that. Okay, that's how these things work.
of prevents people from seeing the reality. If a person truly wanted to hire you based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially provides tax cuts for the end of the year when you create your tax returns. They give you a tax credit for hiring someone who is black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew that.
In these agencies?
In agencies and
Wait, hold on. I've seen this clip, and I didn't even know this was true, but this is very funny to me.
private
In government
businesses.
agencies, they don't get tax cuts for hiring people
And
of
the other
color.
thing I
This
wanted
is
to,
to
and
protect
the other
people
thing I
from
want
discrimination.
the other thing I want to kind of state here is that I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for DEI and people of Latino or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on
DEIA is not
it's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color.
I just don't know how to talk to like people like it's impossible to talk to people like this because they live in a fantasy world where everything has to be perfect. And it's like we live in a country where there is still some discrimination, especially with Trump being voted in. There's a lot of people who are just racist that wanted to vote for him because they care more about getting illegal immigrants out of the country than actually having a stabilized economy because they hate illegal immigrants. Like they hate brown people. It's and by the way, I don't want violent criminals here, but the reality is that there are people here, and our system kind of depends on some of these people because they're performing jobs, and even if they're getting welfare, that welfare still goes through the economy. Not a big fan of people being here illegally, but these people hate them so much they were willing to vote for somebody that's like, we're going to tariff the fuck out of you. And the middle class is struggling. We're continuously struggling. You guys vote because they're okay with being poorer if it means that we can oust people of particular skin colors. Right? That's just like that. So we know that there's racism in the country, right? But you're never going to get it perfect. So either no DEI, and then you're going to see a drastic underrepresentation of people, like marginalized people, especially lower income, or you implement it, and maybe it's unfair to white people sometimes, but not as much as it would be without it to non-white people. That's it. It's not that hot of a take. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be better. And this is better. Who gives a fuck?
No,
Physical
it says
attributes.
that the people who work in your agency, it's about anti-discrimination.
Discrimination against what?
People for the color of their skin or their sex or their religion or because they're a veteran or because of their disability. Like, I don't understand.
Against people who may have different cultural mores, may have different.
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It
This guy's never worked a job before their entire fucking life. It blows my mind. If you think culture is irrelevant to a job, then you just have never worked a job before. When you work, this is one of the biggest things that I like to tell people is working a job, especially a job with the people with different like backgrounds, is going to be the best way for you to expand yourself. When I started working, like I worked with a lot of, like the majority of people I worked with were black and Hispanic guys. A lot of black people, a lot of Hispanic people. And like you learn a lot about different people and different cultures and different things that they value and different things that they don't value. Like when you work with people, you don't just stand in a box and just like look straight ahead all day. You talk to and get to know people you normally wouldn't have that are outside of your comfort zone. That's what you do. So it doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter. What do you mean? That matters a lot. It's like your one-on-one conversation. And that's where the problems really will come down to. It's like when you're having a one-on-one interaction, not understanding the other person could be like a huge issue because maybe there are culturally some things that are okay and culturally things that are not okay. Like when I would work at my job, Being some of the other white people that would work there, some of the young people, we would make gay jokes and with shit. Older black guys do not like that. They get very upset. It's good to be respectful of that culture. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, sorry. You know what I mean? So you make, fewer gay jokes from it. It's all about like some level of inclusivity. It's culture matters so much. What are you talking about?
It should be based on merit. And
It still is for the most part.
that is the emphasis
People
here.
get hired as a merit, but
Also, shut the fuck up about this merit thing. So many people, especially I would say in like union jobs, get hired because of nepotism. Like I got my job because my uncle worked there. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, it should be merit. It's almost never merit, especially union jobs. Almost everybody in a union job knew somebody that got them the job. Oh, it's based on merit. No, it's not. Not usually. It's usually based on nepotism. And half the time, these people suck and they're terrible. What are you talking about?
But if the
Not
DEI,
if you get a
if the
tax
DEIA, I'm talking about Trump's rescission of
If
these
you
orders
receive a
on
tax
these
cut as
agencies.
an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
Dude,
If you could pay them less?
listen,
Maybe. But then the counter to that is that okay, so listen, I just want to be absolutely real with you because we're doing like these weird arguments. I don't even know if DEIA gives you a tax cut if you hire people like marginalized groups. But here's the thing: if you hire a marginalized group, you get a tax cut. That's cool. But then also the marginalized people that you've hired, it's probably harder to fire them because they're protected. So I say that offsets itself. You might say, man, well, I hire this white guy, I don't get an incentive, but if I fire him, I'm not going to get in trouble, right? You're probably not going to get. So it balances itself out. It balances itself out a little bit. I'm just saying, we never think about that other side as well. Like I don't really have any excuse. I get fired from a job. I can't really be like, hey, they discriminated against me for being what? Fucking bald and fat white guy. It's not going to happen.
we're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. Government agencies.
They don't.
No,
Yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
Every
parts.
private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what?
Damn. That's tough. That's a tough one. When I saw this clip, I looked it up and I said, is that true? That makes sense. And I saw that's so true. It's interesting though. This is the way that this is it's embarrassing for this guy here, but this is like how debates are supposed to work. This isn't like a conversation of like Sam Seder talking to people and like having a meaningful conversation where people are open to changing their mind. This is a debate where 20 people surround Sam Seder and everybody's trying to vie for their own attention for their own YouTube channel. That's probably sitting in the description, which it is. There's tons of YouTubes and Instagrams and this and that. It's a bunch of. This is what it is. This is the performance. This is the crossfire of today's age. It is a bunch of people sitting around having a performative conversation so that they can have attention for their social media. And I'm not saying that any of these people are inherently bad for that. Like, I like Sam Seder. He's cool. But this is what it is. It is political dogfighting. None of this is productive. This just makes you feel good about your side because everybody who's engaging with this is engaging with it from their side. Like, if you're more progressive, you're probably looking for progressive dunks. If you're more conservative, you're probably going to ignore those progressive dunks. If you're conservative, you're watching this more for the conservative dunks, though there don't seem to be very many. If you're progressive, you're going to ignore the conservative dunks. This isn't like a place where you get into the mindset where you're like, hey, let's sit down and let's talk. And then the audience that engages gets into that same mindset where they're like, oh, let me just chill. Let me just actually get into the same mindset of like, oh, let me hear what this person has to say. That doesn't exist. That's the fundamental issue with Jubilee.
I think the whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that.
That's fucking funny.
The FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes. DEIA forces them as an agency to say if you have a job opening, you must do your best efforts to make sure that every
I like that.
part
I love
of
being a
society.
buzzword. You must do your best effort.
Did you say the word must is a buzzword? You guys are throwing around DEI like it's a slur, and you're sitting here saying that was the buzzword? Do you know what a buzzword is? How do you not know what a buzzword is?
I love that buzzword.
Okay, pause.
Because you feel like you have to. You're pressured to.
Yes.
Okay. So you feel like you have to what? Try to find the best people? What is he talking about? Hey, thank you so much for the roses. I really appreciate that.
You shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
No, not to hire someone that's
It's not pressure to hire them. You're pressured to explore all your options.
skin colored, but put up notice about that the job exists. Make sure that you put it in different communities so that you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you get tax cuts.
Are you saying that you get tax cuts just for telling everybody about it? That doesn't sound too bad.
All right, return
At
your
the
seat.
end of the year when you file taxes, you get a tax cut for hiring someone who speaks a
Please
different
return to your
language or a
seat.
different skin color.
I don't know how to respond to that. How you doing?
So I want a little bit more clarification because I don't even know if we got it yet.
I remember this guy.
Which part benefits corporations, like from your
Okay,
perspective?
so agencies, the U.S. government agencies, the vast majority of them, what they function to do is inhibit corporations from essentially externalizing their costs onto society.
Sure.
So the example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making the Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of deposited because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead of burning it, it's too expensive to burn it, I'm gonna dump it into a river. And the EPA comes in and says, you can't do that. We're gonna fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're gonna take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river. And those costs are then borne by everybody who lives around that river. They're gonna get cancer, they're gonna get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is. And society bears the cost of that.
Can you
because
connect the
those
dots for me though? Because it sounds like we're talking about something completely different.
And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing these agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of Russell Votes thing, the OMB, the whole Schedule F.
Okay, now I understand his prompt. Because we never really touched on the giving corporations power. And so I think I can understand on this point now is it's the DEI cuts are about trying to gut these institutions from the inside out to weaken them, which will hurt us. So we're going to do this like the EPA and other institutions that incentivize, proper, usage of the way that you operate business. Okay, I guess I get that. It's interesting.
Where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, right, because they just fired a bunch of inspector generals that were that audit the government that have saved us hundreds of billions of dollars in total. For Doge, that has lied about the top 5 things that they've spent money on or that they've saved supposedly money on, and they have no receipts.
Want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree if this is about demoralizing? I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? They won the popular vote.
Sure.
Do you not think that in part, you even said yourself that Americans don't really know what DEIA is according to your definition of it?
Well, the government's definition of it.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policies and the military and other organizations, not just the military.
I don't think that that's true. I don't think they're really demoralized. I think that they're listening to a fucking moron about the way that the interpreting of different just things. I mean, Trump says very few facts. People still eat it up because they're being very willfully ignorant. Like I was with my mother the other day and we were talking about Trump and everything, and she voted Trump and she's sitting here talking about how often he lies and how he lies about this and that and he's all crazy and this and that other thing, and he's like blah blah blah, and I'm just like, I mean, why do you vote for this guy then? And she just thinks it's like a game show. Like they don't really care. I don't really understand what it is. I think people are single issue voters and they hear something like tax cut and they go, oh, and their brain turns off because they heard tax cut. So everything is better now because they'll have more money in their pockets, but then they don't usually because everything gets more expensive now because I just don't understand. I think Donald Trump is refreshing to some people. And so that's why they voted for him, really, at the end of the day.
Return to your seat.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video.
I don't like straight anything, dude. I like gay stuff. I love gay stuff.
Partnering with us on this episode. Now let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
My next claim is, unless you're a billionaire, a religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake.
Yeah, that makes sense. Big tax cuts for rich people. We don't really seem to see those tax cuts being extended to the middle class. There's a constant advocacy for the gutting of different entitlement programs, like welfare programs that keep us afloat, Medicare, Medicaid, different things like that. If you're somebody that if you're like some kind of religious extremist that hates gay or trans people or different groups of people, you're winning right now because you're paying more, especially on these tariffs. But there are less representation of other people. And I guess xenophobia would go on there as well. Yeah, sure. I agree with this one. 100%. Nobody's really benefiting from this. So.
Okay.
Dude, they probably put him back there for a reason. He runs too fast.
So let's tackle one aspect: religious fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists get? And also
hating gay and trans people, they get to benefit from the hatred of gay and trans people. They feel good about hating gay and trans people.
Can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
Somebody who hates gay and trans people. That's pretty much really what it boils down to. A religious fundamentalist is somebody who believes in a particular worldview that has absolutely no foundation of facts or logic in any capacity, that's generally used to oppress gay, trans people, women, and children. No established age of consent in any of these Bibles. Women are second-class citizens in all of religious texts across time. That's just a fact. Sorry, at least the most prominent ones in America. Catholicism, Judaism, Islam. And they feel really good about going back to a time where men had more of the power, and that's it. They're not seeing that. That's it. That's it. It's more insane to be religious than fucking trans. So,
and maybe you could say more of like a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance.
Okay.
But things like the attacks on trans folks, the attacks on a woman's right to choose.
Sure.
The idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a
how's this guy cold? What the fuck?
pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education, we should take that money and pour it into religious schools, you're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
What do you think
I don't understand what that means.
you're gonna get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief.
What the rate and the raise of inflation, from what?
That was
What kind of economic relief? They're going to cut Social Security. You're going to have to pay for your parents. They're going to cut when they go after the agencies.
They're going to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They're cutting the institutions that are actually looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. They're doing mass tariffs to bully other countries for absolutely no reason. To like Canada and Mexico specifically, that Donald Trump originally created the trade agreement between them, the three of us, Canada, United States of America, Mexico. Said it was amazing then, now it's horrible. But then he realized he was the one who did it, so now the reason is because they're not doing enough at the border. But then also some of the pressure comes from they should be a 51st state in Canada. Like, there was no, you're not benefiting from a Trump presidency at all. You didn't benefit from a Trump presidency in the first one. Well, he cut my taxes a little bit. Oh, that's cool. You realize that he's constantly whinging about how we have to get our deficit under control. He's the reason it's so bad, right? Like, you understand that before COVID hit, he inflated the deficit by 50% of what it was. He increased it by $300 billion before COVID hit because he just decided to cut taxes for rich people, which always will hurt you. Right? We need rich people to pay their taxes more. You want to know why Social Security is so under threat? Because rich people have a tax cap on how much they have to pay to Social Security. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense, despite the fact that these rich people benefit from labor. What does labor get? They get education through school systems. They get bridges. They get roads. They get highways. All these things that are taken care of. So if you're a big business owner, you should be paying more taxes. You're using the roads more. You're using You're using people more that need decent educations. You need the police force more because you expect them to come protect you for free. So it's like, why should they have to pay more? Because they use more. They use more. Rich people who own businesses use more of our resources than anybody else. They use more of all of our resources. They're disproportionately stressing out the roads, leading to road erosion, which they should be paying taxes for. Same thing with bridges. They're using more workers, which requires what? An educated workforce. So they're using more education. They need more police presence in case somebody steals things, or security. Guess how much they pay for that? $0. They need more. They generally probably going to need more representation from like the fire department because they're going to have big buildings that might go on fire. They have to make sure that they're inspected for safety. They don't pay for those inspections other than through taxes. Why shouldn't they pay more money? Why not? Why should they not have to pay more money? It doesn't make any sense. They're using more of our resources. You guys act like it's like, oh, they don't need it. Yes, they need it the most. They need it the most, and then they can take out. Then if they become businesses that are too big to fail, they get buyouts, or excuse me, they get money, they get loans low interest rate loans anytime that they need it so that they don't go bankrupt. What are you talking about? Oh, they shouldn't have to pay more. Yes, they should. They get more than all of us combined. Get the fuck out of here. This is ridiculous. You guys don't even think about what you say. It's pathetic. It's so stupid. You guys just don't even think about the words that these people say. There's just everybody's so desperate to like guzzle these fucking billionaires. It's insane. It blows my fucking mind. It blows it, bro.
Like they're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's going to be the OMB head, he was the OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up
when you cut agencies and go after them, and you fire all the inspector generals so that they're not being able to make sure that the agencies are working, who do you think profits from that? It's corporations. They're going to go after agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do. Agencies exist.
The hell is C8, dude? I need some more vitamin C. Is that a good thing?
To curb corporations from externalizing their costs and privatizing their profits. So it may be cheaper for a company to dump their chemicals into a river than it is for them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society. They're borne by society in the form of like people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of like we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Damn. He got voted out. He wasn't even able to talk because he was just getting rolled over. They voted him out just to stop Sam Seder from talking, unironically.
That's nice
got
to
him.
meet you.
Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew.
I'm becoming more and more atheist every day. I think that I'll never be able to become a full atheist because I was basically indoctrinated into Roman Catholicism, and I do have I think at this point a very deep intuitive fear and even respect for God. But every day it's harder and harder to believe, and a lot of that's because a lot of people that are religious use it as an excuse to not care about gay and trans people, or even women and children in some instances. And then I saw this TikTok the other day, yesterday actually, and it was so interesting. And it was this girl, and she's like, I sat through like this. She's basically very studied on religion, and she's like, I can tell if you explain to me the different aspects of a society, I can tell you what type of gods they believe in. And I was like, what do you mean? And she started going into it. And it was based on like, if you're a very small group of people, your gods don't really necessarily need to value a ton of morality because everybody knows the bad guy and you're a small group of 50 people. You know who the thief is, so you kind of just already shun him. But if you have a massive society, your god has to value justice because everybody's faceless and everybody's nameless because that community has gone away. And there were 1,000 other examples. It was super interesting. If you're a god, for instance, it's one of the things I remember is if your society centralizes around a lot of trade, then you have very kind of open and empathetic gods because you need to focus on trade, right? And it was like so interesting how you could tell the gods that societies create based on the needs of that society, and it's like, oh, really? Like that is incredibly interesting how predictable it is of like really like the creation of what type of god you want, rather than like what God actually exists. I just found it very interesting.
I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong?
I kind of do, man, unfortunately. Like, at least nowadays, because it seems like religion isn't necessarily used for guiding morality, and it's now just used to bully other people. I imagine there definitely was a need for religion back in the day, but nowadays we live in a society where people really should be able to understand. Jesus, that's weird. Sorry, very strange. We live in a society now where people should be able to understand right from wrong based on really nothing more than just the golden rule. I know it sounds so silly, but do unto others what you would want to be done unto you. If you don't want to get murdered, you shouldn't murder, right? This is very basic stuff. There doesn't need to be a god in the sky to tell me that I shouldn't hurt people because I should be intelligent enough emotionally to not want to hurt people because I'm not a fucking sociopath. right? I should be able to learn empathy. It's harder than just being like, that guy said no, but you ignore the 99% of what that guy says anyway. You guys are like, well, I believe whatever God says. No, you don't. Like, most of the shit, like, the God says a bunch of shit about, like, not wearing certain types of clothing, and you still wear it. Like, you don't care. Like, silk. There's a ton of different things. There's a ton of the shit constantly contradicting itself in the Bible. Because as civilizations have shifted the needs that their God provides through moral reasoning change. So you don't even follow everything anyway. You just be like, well, God changes what he says to people based on the society, blah, blah, based on what he thinks they can handle. Just so much cope. I don't know.
Wrong with religious fundamentalists. So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats,
Okay.
is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us. And
Which is a bad morality. Yeah.
I don't.
But morality from your view is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality, it's a preference.
What's
So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
well, I have
What the fuck does that mean? What? Oh, is he? Oh, he's doing what I just said that they were going to do. They're going to jerk off the Bible as if it is an actual solid foundation for morality.
a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
Just being a person, empathy.
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist?
Oh my god, I can't handle these people. I let me tell you one of the things that pisses me off more than anything else. Okay. Let me tell you one of the things that pisses me off more than anything else. It bothers me so much. It's debate terms. I hate debate terms. I hate it so much. Anytime someone starts debate terming me, I know that you're a pervert. Like, I know that you're a debate pervert and you need to stop. Like, I don't want to hear a conversation about moral relativism. I don't care what that means. I don't care about debate terms. I don't have an interest in debating you. I have an interest in having a conversation. Don't sit here and try to be like, well, that's moral relativism. Shut up. Just stop talking. Okay? If I'm not going to accept that demisexual is real because I find that just ridiculous, overcomplicated labeling of things, I'm not going to care about moral relativism either. Okay? I'm a simple guy. I want to have a conversation. I don't want to have to Google every other word that you just learned yesterday because you want to feel really good about info dumping onto me. It's time to grow up, have a conversation. Hey, where do your morals come from? Well, you know what? I believe in like kind of a golden rule society. I wouldn't want something to happen onto me. I would also not want it to happen onto other people, and we should kind of go from there. And obviously it's more complicated than that, but we should basically have as much freedom as possible without imposing onto other people's freedoms, right? So, you know, you could drive a car, but you have to make sure you drive within a particular speed limit because you don't want to rear end and kill somebody. Oh, okay. So these make a lot of sense. And maybe yours is what my God said. So I would argue that's very emotionally unintelligent, that you live based on the fear of not going into an eternal happiness or the fear of going to an eternal damnation. I don't think that promotes empathy. You don't listen to 90% of what your Bible says anyway. And so I think that you convinced yourself that you believe that, but it's not true. But let's have like a real conversation. Don't start using debate terms on me. It blows my mind. It pisses me off.
Utilitarian?
I don't really bother myself with being a consequentialist or a utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you
I don't care. Shut up.
say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Yeah, I do. Check it out. I don't want to die, so I don't think other people should die. Yeah, did you know that your moral foundation can't handle if murder's bad? Yeah, I can, because I don't want to be murdered. So guess what? Other people shouldn't be murdered. Okay, I learned this in kindergarten. There was a poster on the wall that said the golden rule. I've lived my life based on that forever. I try to treat people how I'd want to be treated. I don't want people to steal from me. I don't steal. I don't want people to murder me. I don't murder. It's really crazy how I've been able to do that. I don't want to get hit by a car going 80 miles an hour. I drive the speed limit for the most part, right? A little, maybe like 5 miles over. It wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult. It was a lot easier than figuring out which rules you're actually supposed to follow in the Bible, which seem to only be the ones about hating gay people, and I guess murder being bad. So yeah, what argument do you? Oh, you don't have any morals because shut up. People are insufferable.
Well, no, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would check this out. This is called the conversation. I'd be like, I would advocate against that, which I do already. Hey, if tomorrow everybody got a traumatic brain injury and decided to vote like a moron, would you go along with it? No. I guess I'd be like the guy in the movie Idiocracy, whatever that movie's called.
No, I would.
Look at this guy giggling. He got him on that. Imagine tomorrow everybody got a massive traumatic brain injury and thought trans people weren't valid people. Incredible. Okay, I think people. I just find it incredible. Okay, listen. Let's just be absolutely factually real here. People who wrote the Bible pale in comparison to the level of education that we have as an average society nowadays. We understand that, right? You're sitting here listening to somebody who had like a really high IQ for the time of like 94 compared to the other people who like couldn't figure out how to breathe manually. And you're like, yeah, that's my moral framework. Let's cut the Department of Education so that I'm dumb enough to think that that's true. What the fuck are you talking about, dog? That's crazy to me. What are you talking about? That's what you're gonna draw your moral foundations from? Is insane. It's insane.
I would be against it, but I mean, it would be.
They would be morally right under your
Not
view.
morally right. No. I'm not talking about morals.
Okay,
here.
so here.
Yeah, that would be morally right under a society if that society decided its morals foundation was that trans people weren't valid. But here's the thing. I'm not part of that society, and I have the ability to advocate against that because it's stupid.
Here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off.
I believe you.
Yeah, religious foundations supply people with a lazy way to view the world that are too uncomfortable with facing other people's opinions and perspectives. So they need an omnipotent God to tell them what they should and shouldn't do, but then they're also going to bypass the majority of the rulings inside of the Bible anyway, because they're uncomfortable with learning true empathy. I get it. Like, you guys are very uncomfortable. You don't want to actually use your brain. Like, that's totally fine. You're an average TikTok doom scroller. That's not how I operate in my life. I could be a little more complicated than that. I have more things that I could think about than like whether a book says yes or no to something. And frankly, I think that the Bible is God's greatest test to all of us, because if you believe it, you're probably not going to go to heaven.
You can have an ethical framework without.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates.
Why the fuck would we take it to its extreme end? What are you talking about? Why would we ever take it to its extreme end? You realize that the Conservative Party is far right, and the Democratic Party is like moderate left, right? Like, this isn't even debatable. Oh, well, what about AOC? I don't know. Is she every woman? Like, what are you talking about? For the most part, like, Democrats are moderate left. What was Kamala's big thing? Hey, let's give some tax cuts to people who have kids, you know? What's Trump's big thing? Fuck those trans people. By the way, welcome to tariffs. You're going to get absolutely bent over. Wow, that's not extreme at all. We're doing a really good job, guys. Let's cut cancer research because it says the word trans in it, transgenic, but it's so close to transgender. I hate it anyway. What are we talking about?
You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce.
Well, actually, there's technology that's making it so that two men can reproduce. Isn't that? It's insane the direction that we're going. Also, I don't care if two gay men can or can't reproduce. If you want to sit here and be logical, generally speaking, for a mother, for every son that mother has a higher chance of being gay, which means that there's probably an environmental reason why gay people are born. It's probably because they usually don't have kids to the same degree and will dump their resources into their nieces and nephews or adopt other people, right? So that actually makes sense from a biological perspective. That's why we have gay people. That's number one. Number two, people aren't having kids because it's hard to live in our society when you're getting screwed by billionaires. Okay, we have a more educated population that's going to want to make reasonable, educated decisions on whether they will or will not have babies at a meaningful, positive times, that are feeling economically stressed because houses are insanely expensive and healthcare is insanely expensive, and so they're not having kids. Okay, if you want to deal with the low birth rate problem, which we already deal with through legal immigration, which I'm fine with, because Hispanic people, by the way, they're all fucking religious too. Like fucking Mexican people coming up here, they're all religious. They have the same values as the rest of you. So I don't know why you have a meltdown about it. But if you want to incentivize increased birth rates, I don't know, maybe Kamala Harris is planning a tax incentive for a higher tax incentive for having kids, or maybe just like a more relief for the lower and middle class so they can afford it. Okay.
Unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple, religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good.
Well, here's this thing. There's this thing called abusive relationships. And one of the biggest reasons that those exist are because people are unhappy. When you force gay people to be married to straight people, they're probably going to be more likely to be miserable and be some kind of abusive or bad parents. So yeah, cool.
Can you give me another justification for it?
Because they're happy. I'm happy being married to my girl wife, and if you're a boy and you are happy being married to a boy wife, do you? There's no negative outcome from it.
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
This is crazy. Pedophiles are bad. Gay people aren't. This is crazy. Now, if you need me to explain why religious fundamentalist conservative, you're the problem. The fact that you would even, it's so interesting because you have conservatives constantly talking about how there are people in the LGBTQ that want to validate maps as an identity. And yet the only people I see trying to validate that as an identity are conservatives. Why would you even bring that up? Those are not the same thing. Two consenting adults is not what you just talked about. Why are you trying to make it into some kind of a sexuality? You're a very bizarre person. Why even bring that up? What are you talking about? What?
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so
And them being born that way, by the way, doesn't matter because it's bad. It's not bad to be gay. It's bad to harm a kid. I don't know if you know that. This is tough. This is really tough for some conservatives. It's really bad to harm children. It's not bad to tickle that spot that God put in your anus called the G spot. Okay? Actually feels pretty good. Now I'm a little older. That exploration phase is gone for me, so I'll never tickle that spot again. But you know what? If you're gay, you're living better than me. So
should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, because they hurt a kid.
No, I think we as a society is
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting
Duty? Ew!
on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consent.
This guy is so charged up. I don't know if you guys can tell, but he's like really charged up. He's breathing like quickly. He's glassy eyed. Like he's like really he's giving you 100%. Like if we could have like you say run going right now with My Hero Academia, this would perfectly fit the energy that's oozing out of this guy. He's like all pumped up. Dude, there's a difference between somebody who likes kids versus somebody who likes adults. It's a completely different society. What are you talking about?
Consenting adults, it's a different thing than.
Okay, so you're okay with a
children.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well?
What? What?
Incest.
I just need a minute. I actually am going to have a brain aneurysm. I'm so sorry. This is the problem when you get all of your moral ethics from a fucking book that's like thousands of years old, written by somebody with a high IQ of 72. If you're a 50-year-old dad and you engage with your 19-year-old daughter, it is a fact that you groomed your kid when they were below that age. Now, it's not right above that age, but that's why it would happen. Because you as a parent decided to predatorize your child when they were a child. And you're just carrying that into adulthood. Okay? You're basically Andrew Tate. So, like, this is the problem with debaters. These people sit online all day. This is a great argument. This is so smart. Go to school. Go to a fucking psychology class. What is happening? What is happening here?
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No.
No, I think society has also determined that it's like it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have. So religion provides those duties. Life isn't about
Well, but
freedom
also,
and
I think-
exercising what you want.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine
No,
on me,
because
and
you
I
just-
don't.
Life is about exercising, doing whatever you want as long as it's within reason. As long as it doesn't harm other people. So that's why you kind of have to get jobs instead of stealing. But I guess that's too complicated for me.
You just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good.
That's crazy because it was fucking conservatives insurrecting the government on January 6th, despite the fact that they're all Bible-thumping fucks. So I don't even understand what you're saying right now.
Religion does. So what's your argument?
What's my argument as to why I don't want
You have no
your
contention.
religion to? Well, because the other.
Because religion is used to batter gay people, trans people, women, and children. There's no age of. This is the craziest thing. This guy's virtually about there's no age of consent in the Bible. Like, you understand this, yes?
First of all, I don't.
When a girl starts her period, that's the age of consent in the Bible. Like, that's insane. Like, you guys are insane. You don't even follow that, so you don't even follow the Bible.
I think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong, and there are differences between religions. And so my argument is, like, you're not going to keep halal.
Check this out, guys. The Bible doesn't specify an age of consent. Age of consent is tied to adulthood, often associated with the onset of puberty rather than a fixed number. That's incredible. So child marriage is insane. So once you start puberty as a 12-year-old girl, you can marry a 20-year-old guy. Don't worry about it, guys.
Halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we don't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalists.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And
I mean, you can think whatever you want. You still exist, but I have the ability to argue against that.
no. And this is
I just don't understand what this guy's point is. Like, but I want this. Okay, like, what do you want from? What do you? Okay, cool, good for you, dude. Go talk to yourself. Like, what?
why I say under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of
and
Christian.
female. You're
you
right.
have a Christian.
Oh, we got it, dude.
International-
There's no more intersex people. Only male and female. Guys, we did it. Only male. This guy voted because only male and female. We did it, guys. There's a lot of other problems. Egg prices, inflation through the roof. Cost of things going higher and higher with tariffs. But you want to know what? I don't have to respect trans people anymore. We did it, guys. We did it. We managed as the group of, I'm going to keep saying this. I don't not care how many times you guys get irritated to this. We did it as the group of people who believe in an imaginary friend that said the age of consent is when a girl starts her period, have convinced themselves that somebody that says, hey, I was born in the wrong body is somehow more delusional than them. That's incredible. If the litmus test for being a rational adult is believing in a sky daddy, anything less bizarre than that is okay. That's my moral code. That's my moral code. As you guys 0% of conservatives call out mega churches, by the way. You have a huge problem with waste, fraud, and abuse. You guys don't even have your own houses claimed. There's mega churches. So many of them exist. You guys don't say a fucking word about that. But hey, you want to know what? We got to fire the people that are auditing the government. The inspectors generals, hire some guy from another country that came here illegally in the first place, that owns a car company that's now getting the president of the United States to do car commercials for him in front of the fucking White House, which is illegal. It's insane. We're not going to call any of that out, but like we're not going to say a word about any of that. That's obviously not fraudulent in any capacity. That's just a great commercial. What is happening here? What world do we live in? Like a fucking psycho world.
Yes,
And
which is necessary.
so
Necessary
I
for
can see
what?
the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage
Yes.
under this.
Sorry, we're gonna
And
have
so
more
I'm-
kids. We're gonna have less abortions. We're gonna have more family. We're gonna have stable family households. Sorry about better
trans
education.
people-
This guy is incredibly homosexual. This guy loves the thought of Sam Cedar right now. He's actually, the table's flipping over from how erect he is. Dude, I'm sorry, but like, I don't even know how I've been put it together. The people who hate gay and trans people the most are super gay and super trans, but they know that they can't be that because they were raised to feel shame. And so that they go around and they advocate for people to lose their fundamental rights because they don't have that fundamental right themselves. And they feel bad about not being able to have that fundamental right. That's all that this is. That's literally what we have going on here. That's who these people are.
Gay people should be outlawed.
should be straight. They should be
Women
straight.
should be.
They should be straight, just like my mom used to beat me when I would play with Barbie dolls. We should basically be so straight. Guys, they need to be straight. All gay people need to be straight. Please, please, please. Every day, we need to be straight. I kissed my friend one time when I was 7 years old, and my dad beat the fuck out of me. You need to be straight, too. Why do you get to have the dad that doesn't hate you? Joke's on you, I don't have a dad. Bitch!
Secondary to their husbands.
Women should submit to the husbands.
Women
That doesn't
should
mean
submit to
they
the
are slaves.
Right,
It doesn't mean it means they are protected.
You
Okay,
gotta
let me ask you.
No.
Should women be drafted? Should women be drafted?
Listen.
Bro, men aren't even drafted nowadays. Should they have to sign the draft or whatever? Sure. Nobody gets drafted. I haven't been drafted in like fucking 50 years. Who cares?
I think.
If they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the
Maybe
vision
70 years? I don't even remember.
that you have, and I think Trump supports it. I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and apparently that's good for them if they want it.
My final point is whenever
But I don't want to live in a
my final point is
theocracy.
whenever we see people
My final point. Hey guys, this is again another debate tactic. They just have points to talk about. Like they don't even have any rational thought. They're just constantly trying to get off their checklist. But this guy still hasn't been voted out, which means that everybody like agrees with him, I guess.
live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When
Oh, really? That's crazy because America is the most powerful country in the entire world. That's dwindling because of moron fuck Trump bastardizing all of our relationships with other countries. And we have been the farthest from religion that we ever have been. And we are still the most powerful country in the entire world. Wait, what are the most religious societies? Oh, the Middle Eastern societies that are constantly like infighting. Like, yeah, you're totally right. Being closer to religion and oppressing women is so good. Dude, I swear to God, the people who want to go back to these like societies, they want true DEI. And what that means is that like dudes get to own their wives and get all the jobs because they suck. Because people like this are not particularly effective. They're not particularly intelligent. They're not particularly employable. They're not particularly interesting. They're not particularly good at anything. And they just kind of exist and they flop around and they're upset that other people of different ethnicities or cultures or women specifically with this guy or gay people because he's a total self-hating gay person, they're upset that they're getting the jobs that they wish they could have. So they want to remove those people from the workforce because they want to get that job, even though they're not even as qualified for it, because they would rather that happen than move society forward. Those are the only types of people who do this kind of shit. That's it. It's weak people who constantly try to push other people out of the marketplace, try to make other people second-class citizens.
When we see people deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right.
I think you are at home in the Trump.
Thank you very much.
You've been voted
What an insult, but he's never going to realize that that's what it was.
out. Please return to your seat.
Is this live or pre-recorded? It's definitely live, bud. Welcome. Oh, ugh, they need to do a thing where the table slowly or something slowly turns because it's always going to be the same people who want to rush to it. Why don't you guys just give them a buzzer? This is the thing. What I'm talking about. You could just give everybody a buzzer, and whoever hits the buzzer first can go up there first instead of having to run. They like the spectacle. This is why this whole thing is a spectacle. It's a joke.
I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt. I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right? You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth that benefits everyone in a society. That's
yeah. And also based on all facts it is, but yeah.
A democracy works. I, as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions.
Yeah, and all facts point to that being the wrong way to run a society, just to be clear.
And I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function.
Right, but based on all statistics, removing women from the workforce and you know, gay and trans restrictions are worse for society. That's why our society's been getting better since we've had more acceptance, right?
So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any...
Yeah, I'd put it in a box, light it on fire, yeah.
Any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion is unfair to view it that way.
Not really. It's just a book.
Religion is an ideology like all ideologies are.
Yeah, except there's no facts based upon that ideology.
It's you vote away.
I don't mind you.
You can like accurately predict the type of religion a society has based on the conditions of that society. So then, like, you're telling me that you didn't create God? I don't understand.
I don't dispute the.
Like, this is just how all things would work in a reasonable, meaningful area. Is that if we this is actually unironically the real problem. I'm gonna tell you what the real problem with the world is and the real problem with religion is that we've abandoned religion in the wrong way. I wanted you to like listen to this. There's a reason that the Old Testament went to the New Testament. It's because society changed and their concept of what God needed to provide them changed as well. Because that's what gods are based off of. They are based off of the type of society that exists. That's what it comes down to. We as a society have shifted drastically in a positive direction, but we've abandoned the concept of God. So guess what happened? God didn't get older. God didn't evolve. God didn't change. Despite the fact that I hear conservatives all the time say the reason that there are inconsistencies in the Bible is because God will communicate to you what a society can handle. That's what they say. As time goes on, we still haven't updated the Bible. But if we sat here and we said, no, it's time to update the Bible, then here we go. Guess what? God likes gay people. Why wouldn't he like gay people? Our society's ready to hear it. Maybe societies back in the day weren't ready to hear it, but our society's ready to hear that, guys. So it's okay. Likes gay people, likes trans people. Women can be equal. We have a drastic shift. That's what we need to do. But we've abandoned religion, which, by the way, is fine. But religious fundamentalists have not updated because they don't have a moral framework to move forward that has any level of emotionally intelligent thought. So they need to go, book says this. Even though they ignore most of it, that's what they need to do. So that's what needs to happen. We need to have a big uprising of our religion that has changed to conform to what our society needs, like all other religions have done. That's what we need. That's what we need. That's the problem. So religion being abandoned can be considered a problem because we haven't updated it. We're abandoning it instead of just updating it. Hey, you know what? God says gay people are fucking chill. Contest that. How do you know, even if I'm an agnostic individual, how do you know God's not speaking through me right now? You have no idea. You have no idea. Because God works in mysterious ways. He can speak through atheists, people who are agnostic. He can speak through any person of any religious or ethnicity or anything. He can speak through frogs. He can speak through dogs. He can speak through anything in any circumstance that you need to feel rationalized in the understanding of it. So how do you know that this isn't the updating right here?
The idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that you know, I can't remember his name, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy, and I find it problematic that it will be. But others will be happy about it.
I think it's unfair as well to label any morals that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Like,
I don't think he ever did that. There's a difference between somebody who's like your average religious person who's like, yeah, I believe in God, but doesn't let that rule their life, versus a religious fundamentalist who thinks that everything in the Bible is true.
Having
except what's acceptable for them to ignore.
a theocracy is something different than having.
I think love thy neighbor is a good precept, and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's a good precept. I think there are things from religion that are good.
The hell is this guy? What the fuck?
I interviewed
That's a big head.
Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be, it's like a knife. It can be used to spread butter, or it can be used to stab people. But that doesn't mean that I want religious doctrine to be the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy, and it was founded on trying to get out from some type of like religious oppression, which means one religion shouldn't dominate in this country. That's my sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where you would perceive religious doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't.
From this, what that society needed at the time.
At least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he has a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is.
Well, that's kind of what it was though. No, some dude heard a burning bush. What?
Ruled over, it's reasoned over. The same way any ideology is.
It's not true. You back in the day, they used to make it so that people who wanted to back in the day, religious text wasn't available to be read by anybody. There were an elite group of people who knew how to read and knew how to write, and the common folk were not allowed to do that, so that they could keep them in the dark so that they can interpret the Bible however they wanted. What are you talking about? He's just saying things.
Discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity of religious doctrine. I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy in civil society.
And I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently. And
no, it's not. Inherently, your argument is that it was written by God. How does that make it democratic? What are you, stupid?
In the way that you.
Well, I mean, look, we can have a debate as to whether or not
this guy just says stuff.
Women should be subservient to men. I don't think they should be. And in a democracy, I don't think it's healthy.
Right. But when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is, religious truth and what isn't religious truth. That's not how religious truth itself works, and that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either.
What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Right.
I don't know. When Pete Hegseth is in a bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
I mean, well, yeah.
But well, yeah, that one's bad. But
now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the world.
Did he really say that? Jesus Christ.
I think, and he's informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, but
we can disagree on
that.
We
don't take.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks, Sam.
Return to your seat.
That guy already talked. Like, this is such a stupid fucking game. I honestly hate this so much. I hate Jubilee.
Okay, so Eleazar mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that essentially.
Dude, this guy, is this actual closeted homosexual about to say something against gay people?
Conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years?
I find it so interesting when I see religious people pretend that religion doesn't hate gay people. The Conservative Party is more empowered than ever to try to undo same-sex marriage protections. Right after Roe v. Wade was taken down, Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, Ted Cruz, a lot of other prominent conservatives were like, we got to get rid of gay marriage. Okay, the push is back. You guys got the push. I don't understand what you're talking about. No, gay people actually love, or excuse me, actually, those people love gay people. What are you talking about? No, they don't. That other guy was just talking about how gay people. You referenced to the guy. You just referenced the guy who was talking about how gay people shouldn't get married, and now you think you got an own? That the Conservative Party isn't trying to do that? What? Like, you had people like Matt Walsh and Charlie Kirk invited to the White House for that congressional, fiasco that we saw. Those people, they hate gay people. They don't want them to see them be able to get married. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Homophobia and transphobia is ingrained into this administration.
Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want.
There's more than that.
Yes, in public, kissing in public. No law against it. Just your own opinion. Okay.
Oh, no law. Okay, everybody raise their hand.
So these are all people's opinions, right? The same way you have your opinions about Christians is the same way these people are allowed.
I don't.
The difference is I'm stronger than all of you, so I say gay people can kiss. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Problem with Christians.
Well, you do not believe that theology should be at its
We should not have a theocracy.
Correct. And so what I'm saying is, I think that Christianity. I'm a Catholic. I think that Christianity is, fundamentally very important to instill family values in myself as well as every person who wants to have children.
You're gay. I don't understand what that means.
Now let's talk about.
I'm okay with that too.
Let's talk about Order 1.
You could take the good stuff from religion and we throw away the bad stuff. So family values, that's great. Not liking gay people, that's bad. We did it. We figured it out, guys.
That's 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine, believe that a woman is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male.
Okay, cool. I disagree. I think that we are intelligent enough as a society to understand that there is a difference between body and mind. We know this, right? So there's a sex of the body, a gender of the body. That's your sex. And there's a gender of your mind, the way that you express to society. It's a philosophical concept, and we always engage in philosophical concepts. We have a Bible. We have a tremendous amount of religions. We don't fully live in the factual world. So when you sit here and you say this, it's like, oh, well, they acknowledge these and he would consider these facts. Well, you believe in a Bible that's non-factual. There's no proof of the Bible, and yet you have a faith. You're the same as a trans person, fundamentally speaking. Any religious person experiences a great amount of euphoria for believing and being able to express that religion through different garb and different acts and like prayer and different things, which you should be able to do. Trans people get the exact same euphoria from being able to express themselves the way that they feel that they were born, right? Any religious person who is robbed of their ability to pray and practice would have an incredible sense of religious dysphoria that would distress them and push them to a point where they might not even want to be alive anymore. Trans people experience a similar amount of dysphoria when they're not allowed to express themselves in a way. Both of these things can be they're fine with society. It's fine if you want to express yourself religiously or your gender. It doesn't matter. That's it. It doesn't matter. Okay? It's a good thing. Are there areas where it can be bad? Sure. Maybe trans women in sports, or maybe restricting gay people, trans people, women, and children's access to fundamental rights. Like child marriage is very prominent in the Bible. There's no age of consent outside of when you have your period in the Bible. There's hatred for gay people, trans people. Women are second-class citizens in the Bible. So like when we really boil it down, in both instances, the Bible is more destructive if people get to fully enact that expression. It makes less logical sense. So why are we hating on trans people rather? Because it's safer in society. It doesn't make any sense. So stop with the virtue signal, this facts over feelings thing, because you guys are never factually based.
You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on.
I don't care.
What you choose to express is something that is similar to wearing a garment, similar to what you decide to put on your face. And I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies at
children aren't castrating their bodies.
Such a young age. They're 50%.
Aren't you okay? Sorry, this is just not happening.
Of
Do
children.
you know how many children are treated over the past 5 years? Let's say, I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out
I think it's like 1,000-ish.
from Harvard. Do you know how many children received gender affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You
It's
tell
easy.
me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No,
Well, he's bringing it up because you're trying to make it seem like there's a mass issue going on where millions of people are on puberty blockers. But like, I'd like to see what he actually say.
I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I didn't, but
Tell
I'm
me.
curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers
I
are.
promise to tell you after you tell me what
No,
you think
I'm
it
not
is.
I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
not playing
you
this
think it's,
game.
no, I am playing this game because
Why?
I think
You have to play this game because this person is completely non-factually based.
you think it's much higher. When you tell me that kids are being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers are. And I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported
He refuses to say the numbers because he's afraid of looking stupid again.
that scientifically every single child who has received gender affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And
I've never seen that study. Let's see if we can find that.
50% of them are suicidal because of it. They're actually
Studies on this subject often suffer from research bias and methodology errors, including inadequacies, follow-up, imprecise measurement, and poorly chosen sample bases. Doctors agree more research is needed. I'm sure that we need more research, but I've never seen something say that 50% children who get gender-affirming care regret it. And then, like, to what degree is it? I don't even understand. The statement that 50% of children who receive gender-affirming care regret it is incorrect and not supported by research. Studies on the topic indicate that regret amongst trans youth after receiving gender-affirming care is extremely rare, with some studies showing regret as low as 4% or less. So just to be clear, last time I looked at it, it was the I think it was the detransition rate was 1%, and it might have gone up, which is a good thing to study because the only way we're going to figure this out is if we actually go through the research. But I've never seen 50%. And then if it's 50%, to what degree? So if a kid is like, I'm going to socially transition, oh, I regret that. There's no cost to that. Did the kid go on puberty blockers? Did the puberty blockers have a negative impact? Were they actually adults? Like, what does gender affirming care mean to you? There's no study that even close to represents that. But it seems like the percentages might be going up because we're getting a more accurate study on it, which we need, right? Because it's about doing the right thing, not what we want to do. And the right thing based on all the data is to provide gender affirming care to children based on what they need. It doesn't mean that they need to go on puberty blockers. Maybe it means they need to experiment with social transition. But every single trans adult, like Blair White, knew that they were trans from them being a child. So I don't really understand. Trans kids obviously exist. And I'm not going to get in the way of a doctor. I'm not somebody that likes to pretend that COVID wasn't real or that climate change isn't real. So I'm not like a fundamental denier of science, which is what this is, mental health science. If I was a fundamental denier of science, I would probably just base my entire perspective off of religion. But I don't do that. I generally trust institutions for the most part. Okay. Even though they're corrupt in some instances, and so do you if you're religious, because you still trust the church after there was a massive sex scandal in the church and megachurches. So you acknowledge that there's still corruption, but you don't let that corruption represent the majority of the institutions that you follow. So let's kind of keep that one in mind there, buds.
actually more depressed because of it.
How many of those kids? How many?
psychologist,
How
by
many
the way.
over the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me. Just give
I know
me
what
a
you're trying to
ballpark.
do. You're trying to put me in this chokehold of like,
No, I'm
I
not trying
got
to
you
put you in a
moment.
no,
Yeah, he is, but it's a valid gotcha moment.
no, this is definitely a gotcha moment because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than
It is a huge problem.
Okay.
Medi-Cal, Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know
medical coverage.
one person is.
What does it cover?
Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. I know.
medical
You're telling me that Medicaid covers trans women's inmate trans women? Good. Why do I care? I think that we should have a universal health care. Just because you're in jail doesn't mean that you're stripped of your rights. That's probably why people don't do well when they come out of jail, because you think that they're not people anymore. Now, they did a horrible thing. That's different. Okay? Wood chipper. But generally speaking, people who go to jail doesn't mean that they're bad people. Like, a lot of times it's just like situational. So why would I be upset with people that are inmates getting gender affirming care? Why do I care about that? That means absolutely nothing to me. Who gives a fuck?
One person has had that surgery.
I don't understand how my taxes should go for an inmate prisoner who
You're poor. Let's stop pretending that your taxes go to anything. And your taxes already go to inmate prisoners. Fuck, sorry. Dude, you don't care about your tax money being going. What he's gonna say is, why should my tax dollars go to have to get a surgery for inmate prisoners? You pay so much money in taxes for jails that is a pipeline to remain in jail. What level? The recidivism rate on jail is, what is it, 75% in 5 years? So there's a 75% chance that people who go to jail are going to go right back in 5 years. I'm pretty sure that's the statistic. If you actually cared about wasting your tax dollars, you'd be urging and you'd be rioting and you would be sitting there advocating for prison reform. You don't care about the money. You care about how you feel. You don't give a shit. Or you would actually be saying like, hey, this is crazy. There's a 25% success rate on putting people in jail and reforming them. We need to change the system because we shouldn't have so many jails or prisons or such a massive force of people being put in there for, in many instances, some form of slave labor, because that will happen when people go to jail, which is, by the way, undercutting the amount of money that they could pay an American worker. But again, you don't care about these things. You only get upset about jobs being stolen when it's from people from other countries or people that look different from you. You don't care when it's prisoners who go to jail. You don't care about wasting your tax dollars to engage on draconian punishments of people in jail whatsoever. It's about how you feel. If you cared about saving money, you'd push for prison reform. You don't care. So don't give me this virtue signal of like, why do my tax dollars have to go to the one person that we've ever heard of get some kind of gender affirming surgery in jail? I don't care, because even if you're upset with that, which one is the bigger issue? The massively inflated prison system that's designed to keep you in prison, or the one person getting some kind of a surgery? If it was about the money, you would be advocating differently. It's not about the money. You don't care about the money. You care about how you feel.
Wants the transition.
Well, I think because we're
no.
going to do health care for
No.
prisoners,
Gavin
and you
Newsom-
don't consider it
Gavin
real
Newsom-
health care.
Gavin
hold on,
Newsom
I
has
don't get,
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
million in
900 kids
2022.
over 5 years.
For what?
That is a lot of
receive
children.
puberty
That is a lot of
blockers.
children.
900
AB
kids over 5
547
years.
just
Do you
900 kids over 5 years. What I said. That's not a lot of children.
How many-
including
do you know how
gender
many kids died
identity,
during
gender
COVID?
identity,
All right,
900 kids in the past 5 years. That's like nothing.
to allow children
10
to be
kids a
separated from
month
their parents
died
just
from
due to not
accidental
affirming
gun-
their gender
gun deaths.
identity.
But here's the point.
I knew where he was going to try to go, but it wasn't really the time. He was going to go to, if you cared about the children, you would engage in more like gun reform, but you don't care about children, and which is true. They don't care about children.
Listen, Trump how is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated. Hold
Are
on.
you for trans
You
people
asked-
being discriminated
so
with
I'm very
housing?
passionate about that question, and can I answer it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so
This is usually a yes or no and then an explanation.
I believe that affirmative action should be.
It's not.
So there's not going to be, the way that you answer questions, by the way, is with a firm yes or a firm no, and then you explain. You don't sit here and go on an entire rerouting of the conversation unless you're afraid of the conversation.
Affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. It's
Okay,
not saying that you have to
regardless-
hire
hold on.
trans people.
Okay,
It's
well,
saying
hold on.
you can't fire someone who find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge
Okay.
and their work ethic, not
Okay.
based on sex.
I'm not saying
not
affirmative
based on
action.
their sexual
Are you
orientation.
allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need
Do you-
to, if you
What? If you need to? Well, what would change if you found out they're trans?
need to, then you should. If you need to, then
Right,
you
so
should.
we have a disagreement.
That's not the question is, can you fire them once you find out that they're trans? The implication being because they're trans. If you need to, okay, you're not honest.
I don't believe people should be discriminated against.
Pause.
I do. I'm starting to think that there's a group of people that need to be discriminated against.
It's not discrimination. It's based on your knowledge.
It is discrimination, you fucking idiot. Dude, what's so funny is like everything is discrimination. We discriminate against children from driving cars. We should be able to discriminate based on certain factors, but not protected factors that are irrelevant. You being trans has nothing to do with whether you can or can't perform a job. That's literally it. It doesn't matter.
Not what you sleep with, not who you sleep with. Just saying.
What does that have to do with anything? What? That isn't even relevant.
Hi.
Sam.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely. And
I immediately, if this was a real life conversation, I get to walk away. I'm never going to listen to people who talk like this. You're insane.
and Christian nationalism would be a good alternative.
it
What
wouldn't.
we're seeing right now is
And
just
congratulations.
yeah, and
Wow, the Amish guy got so worked up. Like, he can't wait to go home to his cousin wife.
thank you. And yeah, I think
Oh
what we're
my
seeing right
God.
now is a culture of death. This is the most
Bro, you want to know what gets me all the time? It really does. It doesn't even get me that much, but it kind of pisses me off. Okay, every single political content or comment or commentary creator that I really see on the right is scrawny or fat or whatever. right? And then people be like, I knew this guy was a lib when they see me talking because, oh, look at how fat he is. Bro, I'm bigger than you, dude. I'm fucking bigger than you. I squat deep. But what are you talking about? Look at my traps, bro. You guys sit at home all day fucking jerking off to like anti-fucking trans shit all day, and you're going after me. Oh, you look like a fucking liberal. Dude, I actually go to the gym. What do you guys do? You got this the gummy bear machine, Charlie Kirk, coming over here, sitting here just like fucking morally jerking off over hating trans and gay people. And you're going to sit here like, I knew you were a fucking liberal. Why? Because of what, dude? What are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about, bro? It just fucking pisses me off so much. Look at these people. Look at these guys. Look at these guys. They're like toothpicks. Bro, look at these guys. It fucking gets me, bro. Are you kidding me? Look at this. Oh, dude, I can't even, bro. It drives me up a fucking wall. It drives me up a wall. I have to find this now, okay? Because my walls have been driven. All right? It gets me. It always gets me. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this. I'm getting it on the screen, dude. We're going to get it all over the screen. If I can find my post. Because I post so much on, Instagram and stuff. It's like problematic almost. We're going to play the video because I can't find it.
Suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People
Well, they're not children, so.
aren't even reproducing. We don't even
We are still reproducing. If you want to make it more accessible, make it easier to be middle class.
have like a.
Should we mandate people reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids.
Well, they're not kids.
There are like.
Well, if you wanted to stop kids from dying, you would vote for more welfare services for kids and education for children. Here it is, dude. This is what I'm talking about, bro. What are you talking about? Look at this thing. This is insane. You're telling me, like, oh, you look like a typical liberal, bro? Look at this. Where's your fucking quads? What you guys can't even squat to parallel. You're pathetic.
On to outlaw abortion.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw
I think it would
abortion.
benefit.
It's so funny because he's like, you benefit if you're a religious extremist. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm offended by the suggestion of that.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow.
Thrown into the workforce? Women want to work. Unironically, okay, you want to know the best way to keep women out of the workforce? Treat her well. I don't know. My wife every day wants to leave the workforce. All right. The reason women are working isn't because they want to. It's because they feel like they have to, because there are shitty guys out there and they need to be independent. So there you go. Also, if you want to incentivize more childbirth, make it easier for the middle class. Universal health care, universal child care. Okay, cool stuff.
Allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so.
Wow, you don't believe in it? That's crazy.
Sure.
All right. I mean, this I think
stupid.
reinforces my point that
That's a stupid thing to believe. That you're basically saying a woman should be trapped in a relationship, or a man in some instances.
that if you are
But it would be better for society. It would be better for
Christian
everybody in
theocrat, then you would be
society.
Says who? We've been doing better every year over year. The rejection of an archaic religion is a problem. Again, we can update religion like most societies will generally do, but.
And same with xenophobic what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Do you think that's better for Americans in general?
No, probably not, because I like big, fat, titty, and assed Hispanic and black girls. So why would that be better for me to be xenophobic? Do we even know what that means? Let me show you. You're telling me that you don't like Xena the warrior princess? She's hot as fuck. Lucy Lawless? You're going to be xenophobic? That's insane. That's like my number one childhood crush. A strong masculine woman. Okay? And now I'm married to a strong masculine woman, and I top her. Okay? Oh, I want a feminine woman, then I could dominate. What are you doing? You might as well just have a cat, because you're there's no struggle there. But if you could be a masculine presence over a masculine woman, Jesus Christ. Well, guess what? You're winning. So anyway, xenophobia, fear or hatred of people who are perceived as different, often based on their nationality, ethnicity, race, or religion. So you're telling me it would be a good idea to be afraid Are you telling me that you want to live under an ideology of fear? So let me get this straight. The same group of people who say that men are getting weaker year over year wish our society was based on fearing other people. Wouldn't we not be afraid of other people? Hey guys, I'm xenophobic. I'm really scared of other people that look different from me. That's how I want to live. Paranoid all the time. By the way, mental health problems have nothing to do with my paranoia. What are you talking about? You want to live in a society of pathetic fear? That's insane.
Like
xenophobic
yes.
nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture.
We do have a coherent culture. We actually do in America. Okay. You want to know what our general coherent culture is? Work. Work and live and let live. Do you as long as you're benefiting society. That's the general culture, right? That's pretty much what it is. You can believe what you want. You can express what you want as long as you're not harming other people and you're helping society and you're working a goddamn job. That's our culture. We accept people from any race, ethnicity, skin color, sex, gender, whatever, as long as you're contributing to society and the economy. That is America culture. That is what American culture is founded on. It doesn't need to be because that guy looks a certain way or I don't like his eye shape. That makes me scared. Well, you know what? I like sushi, so fuck you. We don't need to have a lazy, weak centralization around people who look the same as you. That's pathetic. That's lazy. I want to have a society based on people who work, who work a job and they're chilling and they're having fun and they're decent people. So, and the worst people I've ever met are religious people. There's really no hate like religious love. Let me tell you something. It's horrific. They're always nasty, snotty looking people that look like ostriches ready to spit on you.
Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture
What is the
based on
dominant culture?
European and Christian values and identity.
Yeah, white people. She wants white people to be here and not non-white people.
That is a dominant culture.
White
It's
Christian-
rooted in European identity.
White, so you,
Yeah, this other guy was like, racism is dead, and here she is. Hey, we should all be European. You know she's saying white. She's saying European because she's dog whistling right now. That's what she's doing, but she's saying white people. That's what she wants you to believe in her head.
so your argument is
That
that
has been the
it's-
dominant culture.
Just to be
and
clear,
we're not
cares?
letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you
Your-
should keep your culture, and this is why our culture is so divided.
your argument
Hey guys, we shouldn't have black people. That's what she's saying right now. Insane.
is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been.
Isn't it crazy that since we've had less white people, our society has still gone in a better direction? Isn't that interesting? So one, maybe it's because we as us people focus on a different priority, or two, maybe white people are not that great at getting shit done. Me personally, I think it's the ideology behind it, that we all can live in a cohesive unit. We can get the best of both worlds. We don't hate people of different cultures, so everybody from every culture wants to come here and contribute to us. But by her logic, that's a face a mother might love.
Would you really disagree with that? What is it then if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of
For the
America.
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, like Jewish people, Italian people, Irish people were not considered white. So
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Even then, even we had this idea of a melting
we've been getting better since the 1960s now.
pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant
But-
culture. Is that not
Well,
what melting
no,
means?
no.
Yeah, she's just a dumb person. Melting pot is everybody mixes together. Sure, you can melt into and generally assimilate. Sure, you could use that, but you're talking about just white people dominating the societies. That's not a melting pot. What are you talking about?
No, it doesn't
And now
mean
instead
it's
we're
to
saying there's something
to
wrong
the
with
dominant
xenophobia.
culture. No, I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice, and people. I think what you're expressing though
That's nice. Yell at her. Be a little more firm about how she's a rotten piece of shit.
is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about, and I think that's
I mean, I
problematic.
disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to
So
social
you
issues.
don't.
Not really, but you guys feel awfully comfortable supporting him and making, and you guys think that he's going to bring back the white wave. So, I mean, okay.
think that he's conservative
No,
enough for you.
Oh, definitely nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you.
No, he's trying to pour a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, I mean,
By the way, I'm just going to tell you right now what I'm telling you right here. This is when you're going to need to follow me where I go, because I'm going to tell you how right I am right now. This is who I'm talking about when I'm talking about Elon Musk throwing out 2 hardline Hail Hitler in a video, not a Democrat waving their arm around, stilled image when it's up in the air. 2 hardline Hail Hitlers. People are like, that's not true. He's just autistic. No. This person, this is why he threw out 2 Hail Hitlers. Okay? Because he supported, I'm not even kidding, Musk got so much negative attention from people on Twitter, racists that hate black people, which is her, for saying that he supports H-1B visas, which disproportionately go to Indian people to come to America so that they can work. Okay. Now there can be flaws with those H-1B visas. Like the companies can be like, if you better work overtime for us, or we're just going to reject your visa and send you back, for sure. But they were pissed, like her, because they want less non-white people in America. Elon Musk said that, got a tremendous amount of problems from his own audience that hates black people, because he made it very comfortable on Twitter for people to hate black, Hispanic, and brown people. And so he had to go out and on a national stage throw out 2 Hail Hitlers to appease people like this. It was a dog whistle for them. That's what it was. That's all it was. That's how it's always been. And when you say no, 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 you're either no, you're lying, or you're willfully ignorant. These are the people he was throwing Hail Hitlers out for, to make them feel better about him supporting brown people getting jobs in America. Just so you're aware of that.
I think you're making my argument for me.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
I'm just saying, I've been in there.
You guys just clapped for somebody saying black people don't belong in America. What the fuck is wrong with these people? These people are insane.
My next claim is the GOP will destroy Social Security and healthcare.
Yeah, they have been trying to do it for decades. Of course they're going to try to destroy that. They're sitting here talking about waste, fraud, and abuse in Social Security and healthcare. They're just trying to cut it down. They're trying to get rid of it because they don't like having to pay for people to live. It's insane. Oh my God.
So, what if Social Security should go away?
It shouldn't.
That's my question to you.
It's no, sure. Give me your reason why. This is the reason why. Well, I can invest that money for other things. That's cool. Do you know how it started? It started after, the Great Depression, where people were dying. So we gave old people Social Security, and it helped them a lot, and it helped our society a lot. It kept them alive. It kept money flowing through the system, and so that's why we need Social Security. Is it better for an individual to take that exact same amount of money and invest it for themselves for the future? Could you get more yield out of it? Probably, for sure, but that's not how everything works. Not everything needs to work to maximize your individual contribution. It's supposed to maximize the way that we operate in society. So older people, it's like, hey, listen, you're probably going to go through a significant amount of economic struggles. So if you're poor, you're still going to get a nice Social Security so you can at least live when you're older. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I could take that money and I can invest it into other things. I don't care. I don't care. I'm okay with old people getting some of my money so that they can go to grocery shopping. It's not that big of a deal. And frankly, if you wanted to reduce the burden on lower and middle class people, guess what? Just have millionaires and billionaires pay into Social Security more. They're capped at like what, $6,000 a year? Remove the cap. Remove the cap. Make it so poorer people don't have to pay as much. Make it so richer people have to pay more. Oh, well, they're not going to get a return on that. Really? You don't think that it's going to create a more secure, a secure workforce, mentally secure workforce, when these people know that they're going to have a decent amount of money waiting for them, even if they can't put money aside for their retirement? You don't think that that contributes to a positive workforce? Everything, Social Security, universal healthcare, all contributes to a better workforce. People would be so much better off if they didn't have health anxiety all the time, because they had access to healthcare, which would be cheaper if we actually had per person. If we actually had some kind of universal healthcare, it would remove the burden from businesses having to provide it themselves, and it would make it easier to be more job flexible, so you didn't feel like you were stuck at a job because of you needed healthcare. You could float for a little while, and you can go and like, okay, I can get another job without getting punished for 3 months as I have to wait for my qualification time to come out. Every single one of these entitlements has a positive impact on society. Oh, food stamps are bad. Really, poor people buying food so that you can actually work a job is bad? Because when they take that money, they're putting it into the system, and that creates more jobs. No, all these things are helpful for society. That's why society has gotten better since we've implemented entitlements. Should we make sure we keep them under track? Absolutely. We have these things called inspector generals. They audit the government, but they were fired because they were investigating Elon Musk. So that's incredible.
because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. And not only does it keep our elderly out of poverty, it's essentially a social insurance program that protects you if at the end of your life you don't have enough money to survive.
For
And
right
so-
now, do you know that it's also the albatross around our generation's neck?
No, it isn't.
Okay,
No, it's not. Again, have rich people pay more.
so
Let me just explain this.
Well, you're
Let me
gonna
explain this
go-
to you.
I'm pretty sure Social Security is fine, except for the government keeps dipping into Social Security to pay for other things. I feel like that is like the truth.
back to lecturing
No,
me
no.
about
Am I
Social
wrong about
Security.
that?
Well,
we don't
that's
have.
what we're talking
we
about,
are,
Social
yeah,
Security.
Social Security is one of the top 3 funded.
Social Security is almost the biggest thing that our
Yes, the government borrows money from the Social Security Trust Fund to pay for other government spending. They do it all the time. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, it's the biggest noose around our neck. Really? Like it looks like the government it's working so well that they feel like they can borrow against it all the time. Really? It's doing so poorly. Like that's crazy that you would say that.
government does.
Exactly, and we are
it
more than
keeps
$30 trillion in debt.
2/3 of
Yeah, and you voted for the guy that inflated that deficit spends when he had a good economy his first run before COVID.
Right. Well, first of all, Social Security cannot contribute legally to the deficit.
Because they don't even account it in the federal deficit
That's
every year.
correct,
We have
because
30
it's
years worth of
self-funding. When Social Security started in 1936, you have more workers than retirees because people haven't entered into retirement. By 1970, it was at 3.5 to 1. Now it's at 2.5 to 1. But productivity has increased during that time, so the amount of money paid into Social Security has been up there. The reason why we are running out of money just for the trust fund, not for Social Security, like I say, if we do nothing with Social Security now, it is statutorily unable to contribute to the debt. The math is right there.
That makes sense that they would do something like that. This way you couldn't try to cut it out from other people.
The reason why the trust fund is running out is because wealth inequality has hoarded so much money above the cap.
You don't think it's because
So
the
if you-
government does a
no,
terrible job managing their money?
no,
They have a huge
not at
spending
all.
problem, and they go, look at all.
Not really. Like, I think that there are flaws, but the government's huge spending problem is because you keep voting in Republicans that deficit spend every time the economy's doing well. Like Bush fucked the economy, Trump fucked the economy. Granted, COVID was part of that, but before COVID even hit, Trump made massive tax cuts that majority helped the billionaires that were unnecessary. Obama gave us a stable economy. Trump came in, he fucked it to shit. He's like, I'm going to give you guys tax cuts that are not good for us paying off our deficits. Where the economy was in a decent place. So Obama did a decent job recovering it. He cut the deficit in half. Trump increased the deficit by 50% pre-COVID. So like, what are you talking about? You don't care about the deficit. If you cared about the deficit, you would sit here and you wouldn't have voted for Trump, but you did vote for Trump because you're an idiot. Okay. Well, Biden increased the deficit too. Yeah, he inherited the fallout of COVID. Of course, like you're not going to be able to cut the deficit and the debt by translation when you're dealing with a crisis. COVID was a crisis. The Great Recession was a crisis. Democrats always inherit a crisis. They make things better, and then a Republican comes in and fucks it up. Because people vote based on like their feelings instead of the facts of the world. They don't understand how to engage with the world. They're like, oh, this was really bad. This recession sucked. Oh, it's probably the Democrats' fault, even though it was a Republican who put us into a recession. So what are you talking about? Okay, but you guys just virtue signal that you want to save money. You don't care. You don't care about money. It's always saving money when we need to cut fundamental human rights. Hey, let's not help Ukraine defend their own agency and individuality as a country, their own sovereignty as a country. Hey, what if old people didn't get Social Security? Hey, what if we cut Medicare and Medicaid? Hey, what about school food stamps to kids? Let's get rid of all the food stamps. Oh, what if we did this? All you guys want to do is cut entitlements with some kind of excuse of saving money. But then it always goes to billionaire tax cuts. Especially in a time where we have unprecedented growth when it comes to technologies, which are displacing jobs and driving down wages. And who's profiting from that? Oh, it's billionaires and millionaires. Like, oh, great, the system is working really well. While these people like these middle class workers, literally guzzle millionaires and billionaires, you're getting taken advantage of. You are a peasant that is fighting for your little billionaire king. You are a cuck. That's what we call him in my day. You're a cuck. You're voting against your best interests, and you're pretending that millionaires and billionaires deserve everything in the entire world, despite the fact that they get plenty of entitlements. They go bankrupt, they're fine because we have a robust bankrupt system. They get roads, bridges, highways that they disproportionately use more to run their businesses. They get police protection that they disproportionately use more to run their business and keep it safe. Same thing with the fire department. They get all these different things to keep their businesses safe. But you know what? They're paying too much in taxes. Are they? Okay.
All this money
They
up for
did this in
Social Security
1983.
that's earmarked for
40
60 years from now that we're just going to spend on
40
something right
years
now.
ago, they predicted this. This is an actuarial table. Accountants sit there and look at it. This is a very easy math problem.
Accountants in the
If
government
you-
are always right? That's totally the thing that you're saying?
Hey guys, every government institution is wrong. That's why you got to turn to religion. There's never been any controversies or scandals or mega churches ever. They do things perfect. Wait a minute, those are isolated incidences, Papa Gut. Those can't be reflective of the entire institution. I agree. When you put people in charge of things, they're never going to run perfectly, but things are not as bad as you want to pretend that they are. That's why I don't hate all churches, even though there have been big scandals, especially when it comes to predatorizing children and mega churches, because I don't look at the exaggerated instances of that and say, oh, it's all bad. The government works pretty well, all things considered. It could be a little bit better, but the reason you feel so booted down is not because of government spending. It's because your houses cost too much and your healthcare costs too much. And instead of going, hey, if I only had to pay, like, if I can cut my houses and healthcare by a third by engaging in government programs that would help us reduce these things, and government things that would like restrict big businesses from buying up houses and then screwing you on it, I'd have a lot more money in my pocket. Should I focus on that? No, I think we need to vote in another millionaire that can give millionaires tax cuts, but I'll get an extra $10 per paycheck, and maybe they'll cut funding to Ukraine and Social Security for my mom. That'll really save me money when I have to deal with her, even though she now lives in the house with me. We did it.
That they're always correct about money, right? That's why we have a $40 trillion debt problem.
The problem isn't the math with the 40 trillion debt problem. It's you have tax.
It's the spending problem. I totally agree with you, which I would argue is part of why Social Security's gone in the hole already.
That's simply not true.
Oh, okay. So we're out of money from the Social Security bucket.
No. Statutorily, by that I mean by law, Social Security pays for itself. If we do nothing, the 6.2% that your employer and your employee pays into it will pay out 78% of benefits starting in 2033.
And why is it going down? If everything's so much better, why is it only 78%?
If we raise the cap, there's a cap right now at $176,000. So, for instance, if you make,
I have to pay 12.4% of my income for Social Security.
$100,000, you pay $6,200 into that.
I'll be honest with you, dude. I made a good amount of money last year and the year before that and everything. I get a lot of money back in my taxes. I overpay and it doesn't hurt my pocket. We have to squash this idea of rich people. Like, I don't know, man. I'm not rich, but like I'm upper middle class and I'm doing so fine. And it's like, please raise my taxes. Please raise the taxes of millionaires. Please. Like, I love having money and I'm gonna spend my money, but a fucking poor kid could use it more than me. Okay, I'm not going to go donate my money to different things. Have the government take it from me, okay? The human condition. Have the government take more money from me. Who gives a shit?
A year.
A year. But if you make $4 million, do you know how much money you pay into Social Security? $6,200.
And so why should wealthy people pay a higher percentage?
No, they should.
Well, they wouldn't be a higher percentage.
They pay the same percentage. 6.2 on $400,000, 6.2 on $1 million.
And why should they pay even more money at all? Because they make more money? Again.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to say it again, buddies. Rich people should have to pay more money because they make more money. And because they make more money, they get more protections from the federal and local governments, right? I said it multiple times in this video, but I'm going to continue. I got to say it again. They disproportionately use more of the police force. They disproportionately use more of the fire force. They disproportionately use more of the roads with wear and tear on those roads. They disproportionately use more bridges. They benefit tremendously from an educated workforce. They benefit tremendously from pretty much every single thing that we implement as a society. A business owner benefits more from all of these different programs than we do. I think I've called the cops like one time in my life. Okay, businesses, they need active security. Do they pay for the police to do that? No, they don't. Some have security guards, but they work with the police. So yes, you should have to pay more if you are rich, because it means you're owning a business and you're using more infrastructure to a greater rate. It's not that hot of a take. And even outside of that, you should just pay more because you don't need that money. Okay? You just don't need all that money. It's okay to pay more, the proportionality of payment, right? It's okay. It's okay to have our society happy and healthy and safe and to pay a little more the more money you make. Hopefully I continue to make more and more money every year. And hopefully by the time I make a lot more money, my taxes are higher, because it should be. Because why not? You don't need it. It's okay. Doesn't mean you have to tax all of it, but marginal tax rates increase it as you make more money. It's okay. We live in a safer society. It's not a big deal. What does the money go to? What does the money go to? Oh, kids eating food and retirement funding for people that are old. Oh no. Healthcare for everybody. Yeah, it's interesting. It's always conservatives that are preaching religious values and community values that want to hurt their community the most. Wouldn't it be good for your community if you gave more to poor people? No, it's only if you do it with the church. That's tax free. We could probably solve a lot of problems if we tax churches. No, I can't do that. You know, what's happening here? Let's just do that. Hey guys, tax churches. How much more money would we make from taxing churches? Separation of church and state.
You fundamentally have this idea that because somebody, you have an idea that because somebody makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No, I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that they should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society, we should not allow billionaires. So, for
they
instance,
can pay more taxes generally, but why should
the highest tax rate was and the greatest expansion of our economy?
Hang on, does a billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No, they shouldn't get more. They don't need it.
No, of course not. So why should they pay more?
They don't. That's because it's good for society.
Anyway, because it is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior. And the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage, is because it works better for society. The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
I think it was like 90%.
It was high.
You know
I don't know the exact number, but
if you made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed above 470.
Yeah, bring that back. Obviously, you're going to want to adjust. We want to adjust it with inflation. But like, if you made like $500,000 a year today, and every dollar over 500,000 was taxed at 90%. You know what these people would do with it? Well, for one, they would engage in like, what is it? They'll just like take loans, like low interest loans against their neighbor or whatever. But you know what they would do with that? They would use it to pay their employees more. They'd say, I'm pretty much capped out with my money. I might as well just pay my employees better. Or they would just pay a lot more taxes, and then we could have the government distribute that in a meaningful way. Wow, what a terrible idea.
So if we had
which is wild, by the way. But
why? Why is it wild? Things were working.
It's also the greatest expansion we had of the economy.
Yeah, you can expand for a time, and then you see places, you see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And
then what?
And they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are.
You're telling me Nordic countries, the happiest countries in the world, are failing?
Able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice and we were able to have a
What reversion are they doing?
party for 50 years until we realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us. So let me ask you.
What is he talking about? If they've succeeded for 50 years and then stopped succeeding, and that was because of epic capitalism? What?
Real quick. So the average person, right? Right now they fundamentally look at Social Security, young people like me, and
what are they reverting?
I'm going to have that money sitting, waiting for me when I...
Dude, can somebody like give me something to Google that I can look into this?
When I retire. Since your opinion is whatever works best for the average person is better, wouldn't you rather shift towards something that I would agree with, which is getting people that are 19, 20 years old into funding their own retirement rather than relying on other people to fund it for them?
You're talking like a 401k.
Sure.
Sure, but then what happens? Social Security goes away, and then all your parents die. What? I don't understand.
401k, IRAs, any other type of
Social
retirement.
Security
Would you agree?
was set up
Would we
as
agree with that?
Social Security was set up as part of a three-legged stool, where back in the day, when I was a kid, we had defined benefit pensions, where you know how much money you would get out. That all shifted in the 80s to defined contribution, where you know how much you put in. The 401k started during that Reagan era. It has been a disaster because the fact of the matter, for better or for worse, people just don't save in the way that you're talking about.
Why?
It would be nice if
the government...
Who cares why? Maybe they're stupid. I don't really care. Stupid people deserve money too. That's why I love Trump supporters.
If the government were changing the mindset and actually pushing that cultural shift towards, we're not just going to hand you money when you're...
How do you change the mindset? That doesn't make any sense. You guys are trying to cut education spending. How do you change the mindset?
65. Do you have a plan for right now?
We've had a 40-year experiment with the government affecting the cultural mindset, and it failed.
We've had a 40-year experiment of everybody. You know what my parents say? Do you know what grandparents say? They go, well, I'm just waiting for my social security check to come in, rather than I have $800,000 waiting for me because I thought about it when I was 19 and 20 because I didn't have this grab bag of money waiting for me.
You're telling me that your parents and grandparents decided to, instead of investing their money to make lots more money now, we're like, I'll have a Social Security. I might as well spend all that money into the economy now to create more jobs instead of wealth hoarding it. Yeah, so this sounds like a good scenario. So instead of wealth hoarding, they decided to spend it into the economy, which creates more jobs. And this is a bad because... Why? It doesn't even make sense what you're saying. They seem to be doing fine.
You're assuming
Hey, man,
that you're
it
assuming
would be
that young
great.
people
I
get-
try and tell my kids.
So we
the
agree.
same
So we
thing.
agree. We should get rid of Social Security and
No.
phase it out.
No.
Well, no, so we should phase out. So how would you listen to this
No, we should reduce the cost for middle-class people and increase the cost for rich people.
idea? You phase out Social Security to where people who have 5 years left before they retire get 100% of the benefits, and then people like me who have 40 years until we retire,
Dude,
I'm not
I
going to
don't
get it.
wanna screw you.
I'm going to get screwed either way.
No, you're not.
You really
No,
think
you're
I'm going to
not.
get Social Security
I
someday?
guarantee.
And then what happens if you don't have the money? Like, what happens if 3 years from now you're fucked and you can't save any money, and now it's Social Security is gone when you're older? What do you do then?
You, at the very least, you're going to get 78% of your benefits.
That's
But if you
awesome. I'll get
join me- if you
$9,000
join
a year.
me
That's great.
In calling for our government to increase the cap, in fact, get rid of the cap, then your grandkids will get Social Security.
I would much
100%
rather,
of their
and again, maybe we'll just disagree, but I would much rather result to, hey, 20-year-olds, please save for your own retirement, invest for your own retirement, because the government is bad at dealing with money.
You know what's crazy? You could do that still. You're worried about the 6% of what your $50,000 a year paycheck? Like, okay, like save your money still. Save the money after that. Invest in a 401k. I don't understand.
Don't rely on them. What happens if what?
What happens if those 20-year-olds don't listen to you?
The same thing that happens
What
if
happens if those 20-year-olds don't have the don't like need they take that extra money and they spend it because their lives are hard?
a 20-year-old just doesn't go and get a job because I tell them to.
No.
They're going to have a problem.
There's also fewer and fewer jobs that exist. You realize the technological revolution is displacing jobs and driving down wages, yes?
But that's not my fault.
Now, I got news for you. It's not your fault, but there used to be in New York City 30,000 people sleeping
No one
on
in
the
this
Bowery
room was alive before Social Security. We've all lived under this, just like the
And it
income
has been
tax.
the most successful government program in the history of our government.
Things that are
programs.
successful don't just start to die out and
It's
end up
not
in the
dying out.
It's the grab bag of money, the massive excess that was
The grab bag. Okay.
there in the early years because of the 42 to 1
No,
beneficiary.
it wasn't a massive excess in 1936.
42 to 1
Dude,
is
that
a
was
massive
because
excess.
There weren't that many people who had entered into the Social Security program.
And the fact that it,
In 1970, it was 3.5 workers to 1. Now it's 2.5, but productivity has increased it. I've told you why the Social Security Trust Fund is running out. It is because of wealth disparity. Billionaires hiding and hoarding their money above the cutoff line, which is 176,000. That's the cap. If you
Hiding
remove the
and
cap,
hoarding their money?
your grandkids.
Yes, hiding and hoarding their money. Yes, doing nothing with it.
billionaires aren't keeping $2 billion under their mattress. They're investing it back
No,
in.
they're just putting it into some stock market, or they're just looking around.
And what do you
for
think a
crypto,
401k or an
whatever it is.
IRA relies upon?
It doesn't really matter. Let's be real. The stock market is like not real. Like the stock market is this like ambiguous thing. That money is better spent into the economy and given to people. Okay, so this is the proposition. Either one billionaire could put billions of dollars into the stock market, or that billionaire can give money to like 100,000 different people in some way, not just directly give it to them, but through some kind of like tax paying, so that those people will take it and they'll spend it into the economy. You realize that people wealth hoarding hurts the economy, right? When billionaires take the money and throw it into the stock market and 401k, that money is effectively ambiguous nothing. Oh, well, the value of it goes up. That doesn't really mean anything, right? Until you take it out, right? If that money wasn't wealth hoarded and put into your bank account or into 401k or whatever from billionaires, they could take that money. That money could have been taxed and given to lower and middle class workers so they can spend it, which pushes more money through the economy, which creates more jobs, which creates a healthier economy. Okay, that's the reason why inflation has to exist. We don't want the value of the dollar to deflate. It needs to inflate because people will wealth hoard. And so we have to be like, okay, let's have inflation kind of incentivize people to spend more and then reduce the value of the money that people are going to like save and hold away because, or else they would just continuously save. We need people to spend their fucking money. We need to tax billionaires more and give that money to like lower middle class people that will spend it instead of wealth hoarding it. That has nothing good for the economy. It's nice to look at the stock market and go, that's cool, but it doesn't really do anything until you're taking money out of it.
Relies on the stock market. Things like
Yeah,
that.
401k relies on the stock market, and I knew people who were retiring in 2008 when the stock market tanked, and they got screwed.
Well, that's a whole
But their
other
Social
other
Security-
problem.
No,
I would
no,
argue that.
Yeah, that whole other problem is because there was absolutely no government regulation on the way that banks were able to engage in business.
That
largely
is the
driven by
problem.
the government
That is
being
the-
once
that
again
is the
terrible
problem.
with policy and
That is
creating
the problem.
bad economic
Social
hazards.
Security.
they cut policy. That's what happened. They were allowing people to do whatever they wanted, and then they got big bailouts.
Is there regardless of what happens with the stock market.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Yeah, vote this guy out of here. Vote him into the toilet bowl. Ooh. What outfit is that, buddy? What the hell?
There's an idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right?
The government can manage some problems, sure.
If you didn't say for retirement,
It's not perfect. That's why we need to still have a level of capitalism to be able to kind of work the market in the way that it can, the best that it can do. There's a place for capitalism. There's a place for, we'll call it socialism. That's why these two things are good for a mixture between the two.
well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from
Well, not
that.
swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your social security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can, right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's kind of exists the entire time. It's not really a swooping effect.
And so you believe this idea basically that government is an effective organization, which it just
Generally speaking, sure.
time and time again, if you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
What do you mean? Our society's doing decently, all things considered.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65.
What if I want to eat that?
And it works. It works.
No, it doesn't.
It does, though, because it helped us get out of the Great Depression, and it's good for senior. Apparently, a third of we've reduced senior poverty significantly.
You should have your own personal.
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work? Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a
But it's not.
program.
Well, how is it failing?
Because I'm not going to receive any social
No,
security.
I've already
then.
Yes, you will.
told you right
I know.
now.
I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well-
the main
Yeah, the debate that guy lost.
the
Don't
main
look at the
issue.
numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? It's because they want to rate it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
That's not true. That's not true. He just sits there. He's not even. This kid's not even going to go try to have a conversation with Sam Seder, and he's going to sit there and say that's not true. Wait a minute, did I see him have a conversation? We saw him. Oh no, wait, it's just him sitting off to the side again. Boo.
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people? You're saying
No,
people-
The majority of them were for rich people. Yes,
So I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay, then how could
rich
they
people
only-
it's disproportionately for rich people.
benefited more from it than low-income people. And I would
and what do
say
you mean benefited more
They got bigger tax cuts and bigger regulation cuts.
from that? Because we already went over the percentage
they
numbers
don't
and we
need
know
the
that's
money.
not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These
What do you mean? These billionaires need more money, please. By the way, RNC, please pay me. Like, this guy's just waiting for like huge conservative donors to like platform them like they did for Charlie Kirk's a failing business until he got millions of dollars in grants from fucking from some like a shadow organization. Or I think at PragerU. I don't remember.
These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses.
Oh my god.
These are the people.
Really, smaller businesses? The small business owners aren't investing in smaller businesses? That's fucking crazy. I've never heard of that before. They're investing in smaller businesses. I invest more into smaller businesses than them because I go there and I eat food from them.
That are giving other people jobs to allow them to provide for their.
Yes, please, my masters, billionaire and millionaire corporations that wealth hoard and don't allow that money to be used for taxes to give to middle and lower class people so that they'll actually spend it and make the economy healthier. Please, my overlords. Oh, I love you so much. Please give me a scrumpet of dollars to scratch your balls. Bro, I don't understand why you want to be a fucking cuck to billionaires and millionaires. I don't get it. I don't know why you want to lay it out and roll over to these people because they have more money. To them, that means that they're better than him. No. A lot of millionaires and billionaires, they had parents that did very well. I know that people like to say, well, actually, they didn't inherit most of that money. Oh, really? So their rich parents didn't help them go to better schools and have better networking and opportunity? Oh, they did. Oh, so it doesn't really matter how much you inherit. It matters where your parents start from. Oh, that's fucking crazy. That's why, generally speaking, a lot of millionaires and billionaires, they have millionaire and billionaire parents that are alive. Isn't that incredible? They don't need to die for their influence to help. But we got to guzzle these people because they're our new gods. The conservative gods are God or Elon Musk. Those are the only two. They worship powerful people for no real reason other than they're being told to do so. Whether it's the Bible that tells you to just do, or whether it's the government or Donald Trump or the billionaires that say just do. You guys worship millionaires and billionaires in a way that's just pathetic.
Family. These.
Ooh, get him out of there. Get him out of there. God. Oh, is it a new guy?
Good to be back.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice
Oh, is it? No, wait, I don't think he's seen this conversation yet. It must be a different time. No, wait, I think he was here. Fuck.
to see you too. I want to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And
Well, it's because the prompt is about Social Security. Well, oh, there is a healthcare one though.
healthcare too.
Oh, okay. But Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that. or-
Medicare.
Well, that is the prompt. This was the prompt that he was able to get. So this is what the conversation is. Yeah.
I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah. So
Sure.
I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because
Is
Social
because it helps people.
Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That
Is actually very successful.
it's like the
It's
Democrats.
also the biggest bucket of
Sure,
money.
it is the biggest
It's
bucket, but the Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it just never ends. It's never enough money.
It's never ends. It's never enough money. Sorry, Donald Trump was the deficit spender in his first election, his first term. He was a deficit spender for no reason. I can't listen to these morons. I'm sorry. Talk about deficit spending like they care. Okay? Bush ruined the economy. $1.3 trillion annual federal deficit inherited by Barack Obama. By the end of his presidency, it was $650 billion. He cut it in half. Trump came in, gave unnecessary tax cuts to a decent economy that didn't need tax cuts, mostly for the rich, and inflated that to $1 trillion before COVID hit. Biden inherits another catastrophe. He has not lowered the deficit, but COVID was pretty significant. There were a lot of problems in the world. We did better than most other countries did when it came to our inflation, which is something he deserves credit for. And now Trump is in here again to cut the deficit? You think he was going to cut the deficit? He didn't cut the deficit the first time. Oh, all these entitlement programs, they increased the deficit. They increased the spending. But you want to know what would be a really good alleviation for the middle and lower class? If rich people paid their fucking fair share. Rich people who disproportionately benefit from roads, bridges, and highways for their businesses to use, and protection from police and fire department that we just magically ignore, and an educated workforce, which is what schooling is. People are fucking. This is insane. You guys virtue signaling. You don't care about any of this. You don't care about the debt. If you did, you wouldn't have voted Donald Trump in.
So you're focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we've become.
Social
70%
Security and
well,
Medicare and Medicaid make up
the majority.
over like a
Right, so
third
70% of our
budget.
70% of our federal spending is mandatory. Now, you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt. 8% of our we're paying for that. So
Okay, so I don't know what this means. Apparently, 61% of our spending is mandatory. 13% is on interest payments for a total of 74%. Okay.
the Democrats run on this. Essentially, they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot of people.
We need a welfare state. Just so you guys are aware, like we need, like with technology, like what else do we do? This is a new era. Okay. Amazon uses drones to fly packages to your house now. This is becoming more and more popular. Self-driving cars are becoming more prominent. I saw Donald Trump do an advertisement for Tesla, which is incredibly immoral and should be impeachable, in front of the White House. That self-driving vehicle, when they implement that for trucks, they're going to put a bunch of other people's jobs out, or at the very least, reduce the amount that they're able to be paid. We have self-checkouts at every grocery store. McDonald's adopted them. They're going to come and they're going to become more prevalent at every other fast food industry. Jobs are getting decapitated. We're going to need more welfare spending. We're going to need more welfare spending. This is just how it's going to happen. How else do we prop up the economy when jobs are disappearing? We don't. It's just, like, you're going to need to do that. That's just the uncomfortable truth. So as you sit here and be like, we need to do less of it. No, we're going to have to do more of it, or we're all fucked.
But it's like we're closer to a welfare state than we've ever been. 38% of the GDP in the U.S. is government spending. That's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally really
So are you worried
irresponsible.
about?
And that's why we deficit spend every time we get a president. That's why every single Democrat inherits a fucking crisis left by a Republican, and then they have to fix it, and then another Republican idiot's voted in. You're right.
The tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts increased revenue.
No.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brown back in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right? That's
Laffer curve, yeah.
the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue. It
And that's exactly what happened.
destroyed
No, that's exactly what happened
It
to TCJ.
destroyed Kansas. By 2016,
Let's
the
look at the
Republican
numbers.
legislature.
Let's see. Candace enacted tax and spending cuts in 2012 and 2013. Brownback argued that this fiscal portion would generate an explosion of economic growth, but overall growth and job creation in Kansas underperformed both the national economy and neighboring states. Incredible.
raise taxes again. They destroyed their education
Reality
system.
is against you, my friend.
Look up
The
the
num- the-
Kansas.
the
In
numbers-
fact,
the numbers
during
say
the Trump
if
administration, they sent Sam Brown back. They made him the ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy
If
around
you
because
want
it
to
was
tax
a
the rich,
disaster.
you should vote Republican because they pay more in taxes in under Republican. It was the
Well,
same
it
as
went
Reagan.
down.
It
Look
was
at
the same as
Kansas.
Trump.
What the fuck is he talking about?
Look at
Look at the
Kansas.
US. Look at the US.
Look at Kansas.
House the numbers
It
for
was
this.
the perfect
Obama's
experiment.
best year,
It destroyed
federal income
Kansas.
revenue is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does
Trump deficit spend more than Obama every year of his presidency, even before COVID. What is he talking about?
more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong.
That's the truth.
So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1% paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year.
We deficit spent more than Trump deficit spent more than every other more than Obama. What are you talking about? These deficits were higher. What you're saying is just factually inaccurate.
Under TCJA. So when you're saying tax the rich, like
But
it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't know it yet.
You're not. You're confusing causation with
No, I'm not.
correlation
No, I'm
because Obama's economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow?
Way too slow.
When you have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%.
This guy's a moron. I think this guy actually has a traumatic brain injury. We had a Great Depression. The worst recession since the Great Depression was the 2007 stock market crash. You guys realize this, right? It was already created. It was created by a lack of proper government protocols, and I can't. The word escapes me, but for businesses, and banks spent, and they just defaulted horribly. What are you talking about that?
All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policies benefit the 1%.
No,
Inflation
no.
disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's
No, inflation disproportionately doesn't benefit the 1%, I would say, because all the money that they're wealth hoarding goes down more than everybody else's. But yes, it does cause people to spend more.
an immoral tax on the poor.
Listen,
and that's exactly what happens when they
COVID
stimulate.
inflation was not a function of monetary
It
stimulus.
absolutely
No,
was. They
no,
increased the money supply by
no.
$6 trillion.
No, I
man.
understand they did that. I understand they did that, and they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted
You
to.
can't
You're making an
tax-
argument
you
for
don't-
higher
Okay,
taxation.
do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
There's going to be a balance of taxing people correctly to pay for particular programs.
To make the country
But like the reality is that when you're taxing people and you're giving them, this is the problem, is that he doesn't understand like how the world works. When you're taxing people, when you're taxing rich people especially, you're taking that money and you're redistributing it to poor and middle class people. That's the way that it's supposed to happen. So like that's through healthcare, ideally, through healthcare, through welfare services, etc. People who have less money that get more money tend to spend that money, which helps the economy. People who are really rich that get more money, they wealth hoard that money. So when you tax the rich, it's not just, they're not throwing it into a fire. You're generally using it to stimulate the economy through giving middle and lower class people more money that they will spend instead of hoard. But, we don't understand that. It's a very simple principle, I guess.
Taxes make us wealthy. Is that government increasing taxes? Are we now more wealthy? Do you think that the only way you create wealth is by producing?
If you tax and spend, government stimulus can increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because
Do you think housing is because of lack of government regulation that nobody's doing anything about? What are you talking about?
there's
No,
more
I
people,
understand you. And
This is
inflation is
basic
under
economics.
control, and we haven't pulled that money off the table.
right? But I'm just saying that
Inflation is back
the
down
welfare
because
state,
we had a problem.
The welfare
with
state makes us all
logistics.
poorer.
No.
That's
No, it doesn't.
yes, it does, and you can see
It doesn't.
across history.
It's funny because again, the biggest issue is technology displacing jobs and driving no wages. They just haven't identified that yet. This kid does not understand.
You compare.
People want to come here for economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why. That's why, as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left this
It's like fucking fourth generation immigrants sitting here virtue signaling.
socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity,
Then
and
why do they keep coming here?
you're stifling that. You're undermining capitalism and the free markets with your utopian vision.
There is no
And
free markets,
Well, there's not anymore.
No, there's
but
never
now
been
there
a free
used to be.
market. No.
That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest. America is the greatest economy in the world because of the free market.
The greatest
free market capitalism is the most ethical and
America
moral.
had was when we had 90% tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal
So
tax rate
stagflation.
was
So what happened in the
90%,
70s?
and we
When Milton
had.
Friedman predicted.
I'm pretty sure what happened in the 70s. So first of all, Milton Friedman. Oh, dude.
It's taxation in the 70s with your social welfare.
We had
Well, they cut taxes. I don't know what you're talking about.
OPEC,
When
we had
your
an
welfare
oil shock that drove inflation way up. And
What's so funny is this guy's sitting here talking about how we shouldn't have entitlements when he's talking about Milton Friedman. I guess conservatives don't know who Milton Friedman is. Milton Friedman is a massive proponent or a massive advocator for universal basic income. He was a massive advocate for universal basic income. Where I believe it was, I think it was specifically through there's a form of UBI that I forget the name of, but it's basically a negative income. I forget what it's called, like a negative income tax. No, is that what it is? I feel like what the fuck is it called? I forget the I forget what it's called. Oh yes, I believe he was through negative income tax. So Milton Friedman, and this is so funny because this is like the proper conservative way to advocate for the shift of welfare is some kind of universal basic income. You guys, Milton Friedman was an advocate for negative income tax. What that means is that if you make under a certain amount of money, the government will give you more money. They'll give you back money. If you make $10,000 a year, they'll give you $10,000 a year, right? And then as you make more money, you will get less from the government, and eventually you'll pay to the government. Because you realize that especially with technology displacing jobs and driving down wages, that we need a welfare state. Now, I'm more on the conservative side of UBI because UBI I like more than like welfare, the traditional welfare programs like food stamps, everything, is a UBI is not micromanaged. It's like, hey, we're going to give you a certain amount of money. You spend it on what you want. Or you could do food stamps, which you're still getting more money in some way. Yeah, you might get like $500 a month in food stamps, but now the other $500 you might have from work, you're still going to be able to use it on whatever you want. It's the same thing. It's just less micromanaged. But the conservative perspective here is a form of UBI. That is the conservative perspective. It is not massive tax cuts for the rich. It is universal basic income in some form of giving people money. That's who you're referencing right now as you sit here and virtue signal about the way that we should operate with taxes by cutting taxes for the rich, acting like that's helpful when your biggest guy was an advocate for a UBI. Your guy you just referenced was a huge UBI guy. And UBI is conservative because it's less micromanaged government spending, which is what it's about. That's how you deflate federal government. You close down some of these bureaus for this entitlement and this entitlement and this entitlement. And you say, hey, we're just going to do a form of a UBI so that there's less micromanagement and less government hands on that money. That's how you would do that. But these guys don't think. They just go, popular conservative, I'm going to believe him. Milton Friedman loved UBI.
And that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, highest top marginal tax rate was 90%. We had wealth inequality shrink.
World War
We had something called the Great Compression, and more people enjoyed
World War II industrial revolution. We were producing more than every other country. No, it's because we were producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth
production. And we were doing
production.
that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest
Which was
individuals.
less when
90%.
Reagan came in and brought it down. The top 1% paid more. Can you believe that?
No.
Do you know that federal income tax? Wait. You know federal income tax? It was when it was established.
You're talking about the Laffer curve, and I'm telling you, go look at
Here's my last claim.
Kansas.
When federal income tax in 1913, when it was established, was only targeted at the people making $100,000 and over. Now most people don't even know that. It's just a base tax. Why? Because the projections that they had of taxing the rich didn't work out like they thought. Because it doesn't work out. There's a ton of loopholes. The rich are smart. Like the rich people are smart. So focus
Our
on
top
producing.
marginal rate still produced an effective tax rate that is double what it is today. 50%
More
effective
taxes
tax
does
rate.
not create more wealth.
Yes.
More taxes
Well,
not
I don't know what you mean by wealth. I mean,
wealth is very simple. It's production of goods and services.
More
That's what wealth
taxes.
is. That's
More
what creates
taxes.
wealth. Money. People think money is
more
wealth.
taxes
Money buys wealth.
Creates
Money
less wealth inequality, and then you have wealth that is shared by more people rather than being in the hands of a plutocracy or a plutonomy. And then you get stuff like an oligarchy.
We've seen what happens when you punish your top producers over and over again. They leave. They stop producing. The government.
Where the fuck are they going to go? America's the strongest country. They're not going to fucking leave. What he's talking about?
Capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't. You cripple the economy. Guess what happens next?
Wait. When did this happen in the country? When we had a 90%
It happens in every socialist country. This is the socialist playbook.
This is
They're like,
not-
they come
Where are they going to go? Where do you think they're going to go? China? Okay.
and they're like, guys,
This is not a socialist country, and I'm not calling for socialism to have higher tax
it is
rates.
more socialist
We
than
can-
ever before.
No,
we have
it's
more
not.
social welfare spending.
No.
GDP. I'll say it again. 38% of government spending of GDP is government spending. We have more social welfare programs. And look at what happens. But how come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty? How
what programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community? We during in 2021
what programs?
we extended. Hold on. In 2021.
What do you mean? What program? How much money is enough? When is it enough? You have the richest country in the world.
We offered $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me. Like,
If we have the richest country in the world, they're not going to just get up and leave.
Let me just finish this.
All right, go
in
ahead.
2021, we extended the child tax credit, which is basically a payment. $300 per social welfare.
Yes, yes.
We cut child poverty in 1 year by 45%. By 45%, but because no Republican would join the Democrats, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin voted against this provision in Build Back. I'm talking 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we cut child poverty in this country by 45%. Look it up.
I feel like when I look at it,
I guarantee you, I will give you my phone number. You call me, and if I was wrong,
all right, we'll call.
I'll do it off camera. And you will see that we cut child poverty in a year by 45%.
All right, guys.
And I'll look into your claim.
All right, guys.
And we'll talk after the show.
Next claim is
So I was looking into like this Reagan situation, and unemployment fell with his tax cuts. Inflation fell. So it seems like as inflation fell, real income grew, but the loss was U.S. tax revenue. GDP decreased. Tax revenue increased. Because the GDP increased, the budget deficit increased, so the deficit went up, and the budget deficit as a percentage of GDP went up. The national debt as a percentage went up. So Jesus Christ. So it seems like there can be instances where these cuts can potentially be positive. I wonder for how long. When you first cut a program like that, like, hey, we're going to drastically reduce taxes, I could imagine once the work culture catches up with people that things are going to go to shit. So it's like, yeah, we're going to cut these taxes. Maybe people were happier back then and were more in a mindset of helping each other. But at this point now, we are fucked. You can't just continuously cut taxes for rich. And especially since like this could have been the perfect combination for the way that this society operated at that time. Like, hey, maybe tax cuts were great in the 1980s and 1990s. But now that technology is running rampant, you have to increase taxes because we're going to have less jobs being created. We just can't do as much. We've already optimized as much as we can. As we optimize more, it's just going to be more and more technology.
Trump's policies make the rich richer and the working class poorer.
Oh shit! I'm gonna pee.
Oh, sorry. Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask what policies in specific are you referencing to?
Tax cuts for the rich. I think his idea of tariffs on countries and the way that
Yeah, it's gonna destroy us.
he's talking about will make people poorer. I think all of the work that they're doing in terms of attacking the government agencies will make people poorer because when you get agencies that are supposed to protect us from corporate interests, they will externalize their costs, those corporations, instead of actually assuming themselves. So their profits are made on the backs of all of us, whether it's our health, our protection from consumer rights, worker rights. His anti-union policies will make us poorer.
So real quick, I'm going to touch on one of the things that you said. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, but
There's a lot of policies.
Yeah, we'll start at the very beginning. You talked about taxes. Let's talk about, in his first term, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. There were a couple things in that specific policy that actually do benefit the middle class and the lower class more than the top 1%. So you mentioned taxes, right? But in that, from the IRS data that came out, the middle class and lower class got affected. I think they ended up saving like 3 to 4% on their taxes, on their tax cuts, whereas the billionaires only saved 2%. So if we're talking an actual dollar amount, sure, the billionaires save more, but they also make a lot more, right? Also, the billionaires don't really care about an extra grand or two. In that specific policy, the child tax credit doubled from $1,000 per household to $2,000.
American making $50,000 to $100,000, so their average federal tax liability dropped from 113% from 2017 to 2018, while Americans making more than $1 million saw a 6% drop. Okay, does this have anything to do with businesses? And does this have to do? Does this also take into account the way that people can like game the system through tax loopholes, or no?
No billionaire cares about an extra grand in their pocket, but I can guarantee you the working class does. So how would you rebuttal that?
I would say, in terms of the taxes themselves, well, the policies that Trump wants to pursue this time are to expand those taxes for wealthy folks. And over time, what starts to happen is you have this wealth disparity, and as the wealth disparity increases, it becomes harder for working people essentially to keep up. Things become more expensive. You get inflationary pressures when you have people with more money. We have more and more billionaires than we did 4 years ago, and a large part of that was obviously COVID, but a large part of it is also the money starts to accelerate. Once you, like you say, when a millionaire gets a tax cut for a couple of grand or 60 grand or $500,000 at the end of the day, they end up investing that and ends up growing because they're not out there working for their money.
Yeah, it's not getting reinvested into the economy in a meaningful way of like going out and like paying for people to do services.
Their money is just is doing all the work.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think we can agree with you on that when it comes to, billionaires and millionaires and there being a wealth gap in our country, right? I don't think Republicans or liberals would disagree on that, but I think where we will fundamentally disagree is
You guys love the wealth gap.
under Trump, right? The stats show that take-home pay was higher for the middle class and the lower class. Inflation was down. They weren't paying as much
Inflation
on
was
taxes.
down, but wage growth was actually greater during the Biden administration.
Well, that's because due to COVID, when a lot of people lost jobs.
No. I mean, I'm talking in percentage comparison between those 4 years and these past 4 years. Wage growth grew not from as a baseline on 2020, but I'm talking as a baseline from 2016.
Interesting. Okay, well then another point that I want to talk on with you real quick is you talk
I don't even know if that's true, but you're just going to move on from that point?
about slashing government agencies. For instance, the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm sure you've heard about that a lot in the news.
That's not a
Doge.
government agency. That's just
It is actually an executive order was signed to make Doge an official government agency as of less than a week ago. So yeah, it is an official government agency.
Wow. Incredible.
So-
it's doing really well, having to rescind most of the things, like the top 5 earnings or savings that they supposedly made while cutting actual government agencies that audit different agencies.
Obviously, we're talking about money. We want people to be able to afford.
Doge is not a full government agency. President Trump recognized an existing group within the executive office of the president to form Doge, which has team members working with agency heads. Okay.
A house. We want them to be able to afford to raise a family, right? As a young man myself, I want to be able to grow up in America and be able to afford food one day, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, that's why we should definitely increase tariffs, because that's going to make everything so much better.
I can now, but continue that. And the way things are going, it's unsustainable for people on the left, people on the right, people in the middle.
Yeah, because people aren't acknowledging technology displacing jobs and driving down wages.
So we have to come to a common ground on how to fix that. What's unsustainable? The fact that cost of living is increasing year
what
after
does
year.
Doge do to inhibit cost of living?
Yeah, absolutely. So what Doge is going to do, the Department of Government Efficiency, is slash a lot of the federal spending, right?
How does that make it easier for you to live? Wouldn't it be better if they targeted, all these big businesses buying up houses and then like fucking charging you rent out the ass? That's our biggest problem. Wouldn't that be a better way to go instead of cutting institutions that generally are helpful, like education institutions and environmental institutions that make you not die of cancer, and other services? Wouldn't it be better to just get housing costs down by regulating these big businesses buying up houses? Why is that not something that Trump wants to do? You guys redirect your anger at the government, but specifically for spending. But you need to be angry at the government for not actually doing anything about your housing and healthcare costs inflating every single year, year over year, generally speaking.
Right. So what happens when
What spending is going to get cut?
So I'm getting there. 1 second, sir. So what's going to happen is the Department of Government Efficiency is going to slash a lot of federal spending. What happens is the government, Republicans, Democrats alike, spend a bunch of money that, excuse my language, but it's nonsense, right? They spend it out here, they spend it out there.
Like on what?
More specific here or there. Are you talking about cutting
for example,
defense? Because they're not going to cut defense.
Well, for example,
Well, wait a second.
no. Let me finish. $175 billion to Ukraine. First and foremost, that.
I think it's $122 billion. Why is it crazy to give money to Ukraine? They're fighting against a foreign threat. They're protecting their sovereignty as a country. We agreed to work with Ukraine. That inspires confidence between us, allies, and other trade partners, which makes them more likely to trade with us in the future. If Russia pushes through Europe, if we show weakness, and that's just going to start World War III, how is that a waste of money?
That was a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to
How is it nonsense?
talk about that, but we also have a bunch
How is it nonsense? How is it nonsense to help Ukraine? It doesn't even make sense.
of other things in the Defense Department, as well as a bunch of DEI departments.
Well, they're not touching. First of all, there are no DEI departments.
That's
And second,
completely false.
listen, defense
Wrong.
spending is not going to be touched by Doge.
Wrong.
And when you talk about the government, what's the biggest expenditure government has?
Our military and Social Security are our top two.
And Medicare and Medicaid, right? Now they're not going to touch the military.
They just increase the military, They're not going to touch the military at all.
Are they going to cut Social Security?
You're asking me like I'm part of Doge.
No. Well, you're telling me that Doge is going to help everybody here, and I'm telling you if
This
they
guy came in and said there's a bunch of wasteful spending, and then cited Ukraine. Just tell me that you love cock in the ass from Russian people, okay? Jesus.
cut Social Security, everybody in here is going to get hit. Because these folks are going to have to pay for their parents, because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. So tell me what they're going to cut that's going to make it easier for Americans.
I already did.
What?
I told you the $175 billion that we've sent to Ukraine. We're no longer going to.
So he's going to.
So $175 billion, which I think is $122 billion. But let's say it's $180 billion over 3 years. $60 billion a year off of what, $7 trillion of spending? Correct me if I'm wrong, that's 1/10,000th? Am I right about that? How much do we take in federal taxes yearly? Am I right about that math? Right? A 1 billion is a 1/1000th of a trillion. I think we take in something like $7 trillion in revenue a year. So 7 trillion Am I right? It's like what is it, 1/1000th of the amount of money? Like 1/1000th of is that how much we saved? That's wow, so much money.
Yeah, so Donald Trump has signed an executive order.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Oh, we took in $5 trillion and then 60 trillion went to 60 billion. I'm fucking so tired right now. I'm being burnt out. It's like 1.7% of our budget. Okay, thank you. Thank you for doing the math for me. Okay, that's a lot. Not really. Where did I get 1/10,000th from? Holy fuck. I'm like absolutely brain melted right now. Okay, it's like, yeah, okay.
Okay, so why did we see a higher increase in the top 1% paying as part of federal income revenue under TCJA?
Why do we see a higher increase in the?
So under TCJA, it was passed 2017, it was effective 2018. 2018 and onward, we actually saw the top 1% pay more. They had more of the federal income tax burden. They paid 45% as opposed to Obama. During Obama's tax plan, they only paid about 40 to 42%.
Because they got more money.
Right. Okay. So they got more money.
They got richer.
But why are they paying? And why did they get
Well, they would be paying more. The question isn't are they paying more? The question is are they paying more proportionately to the tax cuts they got? And the argument would be generally speaking, no.
richer? So this goes on inflation that.
I mean, that's my point. Is the rich are getting richer?
Right. But you mentioned. So why would you say?
During the Obama administration, the share of federal income taxes paid by the top 1% ranged from 35 to 30, about 40%. During the first term of Trump's administration, the share paid by 1% ranged from 39 to nearly 46%. Okay. Hold on a second. Okay, hold on. Okay, sorry. The reason I'm like, I have to type a bunch is because the first year of Trump's administration, the tax cuts weren't implemented. What does this have to do with anything? The first year of Trump's administration, the tax cuts, the Senate passed the final bill on December 2017, the end of the year. You're inaugurated on the 21st of January. So the first year of Trump's presidency has nothing to do with anything. I don't even think that's what he said. It's just that this fact check means absolutely nothing. So if they paid more money, by the end of the year, like the tax cuts didn't hit until the end of the year. It doesn't even matter. What does it matter?
Say that they're getting richer, but you mentioned inflation?
No, they're not. Well, I mean, I think that inflation, to the extent that there was money that wasn't a function of like logistics and other problems that we had during COVID. Yeah, the rich got richer. Not all inflation is a function of monetary inflation.
That's true, but when we look at COVID and we can see that they increased the money supply by 40%, they added $6 trillion, and you have a Federal Reserve System that's doing quantitative easing and pumping stimulus into the economy, you can attribute that to left-wing policy. The entire Federal Reserve System is Keynesian economics.
What do we do during a pandemic where people can't work? I don't understand. 1 million people died in 3 years in COVID. What the fuck?
Those are very left-wing.
Well, I can tell you this, inflation.
So left-wing to make sure people don't die during a pandemic. It's so weird to admit that. During all this left-wing COVID shit. Like, it's so left-wing to try not to try to ease people's financially when, we're staying home because there's a deadly outbreak, pandemic killing people. Wow. Why would you say that that's leftist? Why would you admit that that's even a left-wing thing? COVID was bad, right? Like, you just pretend COVID. We're still doing COVID wasn't a big deal. Fucking shit, it's insane.
Inflation went up in Europe, in Western European countries. The same rate
had stimulus. No,
they didn't have the same level of stimulus.
They did.
No,
they absolutely did. You can look at Japan. Yeah, I hear this topic all the time from the Democrats. They say, "Oh, inflation was global." Not true. China.
Inflation was global.
Never went above 3% inflation during all of COVID, and
China, okay. What about everybody else?
They were under
inflation was global. What?
Deflationary pressures. Japan, which is part of the G7, was also never had deflationary pressures. They never had inflation increase. The only countries that
I'm talking in Western Europe, you could see inflation. Well, you could England, Germany, Italy.
You're picking two countries that. What?
They didn't stimulate as much as we did. It wasn't monetary inflation. If you look at the cost of goods and logistics got screwed up because of COVID.
So let's look at the reason. All international trade, because where the world reserve currency is done in U.S. dollars. Because we experienced domestic inflation was high.
So you're saying our inflation caused higher inflation?
Absolutely, because
that's not what economists say.
Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have dollar-denominated international trade. All international trade is that's why we're the world reserve currency. You guys claim that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like
we did better than like most other nations. What are you talking about?
Well, they did. It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency, and we export our inflation. Like.
Okay.
We export our inflation.
Let me explain that the U.S. dollar is the most safe asset in the world. In times of great crisis and great volatility, like COVID crisis, everybody turns to the dollar. Many currencies are tied to the dollar. So it's like when you
the euro's not tied to the dollar.
The euro is not, but international trade. So if the euro actually crashed against the dollar during COVID. The euro used to be above.
I'm unclear what your point is.
My point is that
I don't understand what he's saying. We did he said that we didn't do better than other countries. Now he's saying we did do better than other countries, but it was because our dollar's better. Great.
The inflation is caused by left-wing policies, and
So inflation.
Dude, COVID is not like a left or right wing thing. I know fucking morons on the right want to pretend it doesn't exist, but it's not a right or left wing thing. People needed to not go to work or they would die. COVID was insanely catastrophic.
Was caused by, you're saying,
supply shock and pumping trillions of dollars.
Well, first of all, you understand that the Federal Reserve is not part of Biden. Didn't have control of the Federal
Absolutely
Reserve.
not, but the entire Federal Reserve system is left-wing in economic theory. That's the Keynesian economics. It's interventionist economics. So
you're saying
what is they try to control the value of a dollar by either adding more money to the market or pulling money out of the market, usually through interest rates based on what the market needs. Like if they feel like they need more money to go into the market, they're going to reduce interest rates, and if they want to pull a little money out of the market, they'll increase interest rates to decentivize you from getting loans. I don't understand. Like this, you keep saying Keynesian economics. You want to generally have an inflation that's roughly 2 to 3% because you don't want the value of the dollar to deflate. Okay.
That
the more you stimulate, yeah.
Why didn't we get it through QE?
We do get it.
Why didn't we get inflation during the Obama years?
We did get inflation.
We didn't get
the wealth gap that you guys attribute.
Wait.
We absolutely did.
What numbers of inflation did we get during the Obama years that were outside of like the 2% sort of Fed target?
I don't think it was as high as COVID. COVID hit us
No,
at 9%.
it wasn't even remotely
Right,
close.
but when we look at the effects of compounding inflation,
QE 1, 2, and 3 all happened during the Obama years. If your theory was correct, we would have had rampant inflation. In fact, Glenn Beck was talking.
We didn't. We need inflation. Inflation is not a bad thing to have. We need a level of inflation to incentivize people to spend money into the economy. Just like you need to have like a roughly 5% unemployment rate. Those are at least economists' target is like 2% inflation, 5% unemployment, right? Because you need a certain amount of inflation to incentivize people to spend money into the market, and you need a certain amount of unemployment so that you have enough of a workforce to take up a job when the job is available. So you don't want a 0% inflation. You don't want 0% unemployment. That's stupid. Just to be clear,
talking about how we were going to turn into Weimar Germany, and none of that happened. None of it. And so if you look at what's happening in Western Europe, well, no, listen,
we didn't close down the economy. The Biden administration closed down the economy.
I understand.
No, there wasn't an
Excuse me, the Biden administration?
Yes, they forced mask mandates. They supported Democrats.
Wait.
They supported Democrat
Do you
states.
not remember who was president in the first year of COVID?
What? Yeah, it was Trump. I'm not saying Trump had a role in this, but I'm saying.
Well, wait a second. By the time in 2021, the economy was opening back up.
Yes, the economy.
All of what you're talking about.
No thanks to the Democrats.
Okay,
the Democrats wanted to keep it closed.
Okay, you can talk about hypothetically what the Democrats want. But
it's not hypothetically. We can look at their mandates. We can look at them closing.
The economy closed down in 2020, March of 2020.
Well,
why is this guy allowed to go back up over and over again? Ban him.
Okay.
Donald Trump was president.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
I meant to step on a stool and I fell a little bit.
Good, how you doing?
All right, we got our Amish buddy.
Sam.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
When you're talking about like
Jesus Christ.
inflation, in 2021, Janet Yellen said it would be transitory, and then again in 2022 she said it would be transitory, and it turned out to not be transitory. And then one major thing happened in 2022. I think we all know what that was. That was the war in Ukraine, and I believe, and I can explain that the war in Ukraine was explicitly caused by Joe Biden's bad foreign policy, and that shot inflation up from like there was already pretty bad inflation in early 2022 and in late 2021, but it shot it up from the low kind of margins in like 3 or 4% all the way to 9% in 2022 of July at the peak.
Inflation is now down around 2%, around where
in between 2.5
Yeah, the war in Ukraine increased global inflation because Russia and Ukraine are both major producers of common commodities like wheat, fertilizer, oil, and gas, especially that oil and gas stuff. You know, if the price of oil and gas goes up, that's a massive amount of. If the price in oil and gas go up, everything goes up. Right? It's not just your heating oil in your house or your car. It's also the trucks that deliver things to places, right? It's huge. So obviously inflation is going to take a big hit if a big part of like world production of oil goes up. It's not that crazy.
Where they're looking to get it. And we have really close to record unemployment that we've had over the past 4 years. But how does this have to do with Trump's policies not making the rich richer and the rest of us poor?
Okay, so what I was just explaining with I was going to get into oil prices. So oil prices skyrocketed in 2022 because in 2021, when Biden got into office, he shut down our Keystone pipeline, shut down all new oil and gas leases in America. Then he took the sanctions off.
We are producing right now more oil in this country than we ever have in the history of any country everywhere.
Yeah, I know,
on top of the fact that Biden is credited by oil traders, and this isn't something that I'm terribly excited about.
What did he just do on the East Coast?
What Biden did during the past 4 years is he used the strategic oil reserve to drive down oil prices and essentially broke and it's filled back up, and he filled it back up, and he broke the negotiating power and the price setting power by oil countries across the world. I mean, oil traders hail him for doing this, and frankly, I don't think it's that impressive. But let's talk about what Trump's policies are.
We only had a little bit of time, but I was getting to that. So oil prices, in 2021, Biden took all the sanctions off of the pipeline in Russia, and then the pipeline in Russia ran straight through Ukraine originally, and he knew that if he invaded Ukraine, Ukraine would destroy the pipeline, and his economic success would be destroyed in Russia. And then when the sanctions, Putin knew that would occur in Russia if the sanctions were taken off of that pipeline. And Biden took all the sanctions off of Nord Stream 2 in Russia, like the second week he was in office, and then a year later, Putin invades Ukraine. Sanctions happen all over.
I'm so confused. So Biden pulled sanctions off of Russia, which would economically alleviate them, and then a year later, Russia decided to invade. How is this Biden's fault?
The world, and inflation rises within 6 months all the way up to 9%. Trump is going to do great things with oil and let us drill, and what that actually does for the economy.
Like I say, we are producing more oil in this country than any country in the history of the world.
What executive order did Biden just sign to have to do with offshore drilling in the East Coast?
He said he stopped it.
Yeah. Really dumb idea. We're about to be.
Well, I think the idea is to balance like economic problems with environmental problems. It's okay to worry about the environment having a negative environmental impacts. I don't know if people are aware of this.
So you want to go beyond even the record-breaking thing?
Yes,
are you aware of climate?
And that lowers inflation.
We're going to sell this oil. We don't use oil. We sell it. We sell it. We sell it. Well, how is that oil getting to the pocket of American citizens?
Because when you lower the prices of oil, that lowers the prices of all
products. I understand that the inflationary process effect of energy. But the fact of the matter is, they're just going to sell it.
Yeah,
we're not going to sell it.
Yeah, so
we want to produce even more oil than we are now. Yes. And you don't think climate change is going to impact, you don't believe in climate change?
Well, that's a whole other discussion, but no.
Well, that's part of the discussion. It does exist.
I mean, it's this.
Climate change exists, and you can either listen to climate scientists, which know what they're talking about, or you could just be a normal human being. I remember working through COVID. A lot of people didn't. I worked outside. I cleaned buses. I disinfected buses so people could still go to dialysis. I remember the weather was great. Nobody was driving around. The weather was fantastic. The days outside were beautiful. They weren't sweltering hot like they were. It's the most beautiful summer I've ever had in my entire life. That on top of all of the objective data about how bad, a lot of this shit that we're pumping into the air is, made me realize, wow, this is actually real. I was able to see the scientists say it was real, and then I was able to live it through my own experience. Isn't that incredible? So climate change is real. Obviously, there's a level of climate change that's going to be just going to happen regardless, but there's also a level of it that we have an impact on. Isn't that incredible? And so we should be conscious of that. And we need to make sure that we balance our consciousness of that with economic policy to make sure people are able to live and function and breathe. I understand that. But it does exist. And if you're not even willing to really admit that and you're just trying to deflect the conversation, you're probably not worth talking to. It is, sorry. Climate and weather aren't the same. The climate has an impact on the weather. I don't know what else to tell you. They have a level of impact on each other. So if we had the best summer I've ever seen on top of, objective data on climate change being real, pretty sure those two things compounded, climate change is a very real thing.
This is sort of the same discussion.
Yeah, no, I believe that climate change is, there's obviously an element of climate change that is partially true, but raising the man-made raising temperatures by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius in the next 150 years isn't necessarily a detriment to society. Human beings
probably is, because we're going to see massive flooding.
You don't think so?
Human beings are very good at innovation, and we can build seawalls.
So we're going to build seawalls. Okay.
We can
in poor areas too, or just the rich areas where people can afford it?
What kind of seawall are you going to build for Miami? What are you going to do about when we get?
I'm talking about the economy right now, which if we get back on topic.
All right, guys. Sorry, time's up.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank fucking God. He didn't even shake his hand. The Amish bastard. You will now choose a conservative to debate with for 10 minutes. Great. Choose a random conservative that actually wants, that somebody hasn't talked yet.
I choose Ben because he let me lecture him about Social Security.
Oh God, this guy's. Oh wait, no, this isn't the guy. Okay, I thought it was a different guy that I didn't like.
My claim is that abortion is immoral and should not be legal.
I disagree. Let's move on.
Yeah, I disagree largely because I think
I disagree. It's not a person yet, and you guys try to cut all the benefits for kids once they come out, education, food stamps, etc. So you guys don't really care about kids. You care about them being born and then leaving them to die. It's a virtue signal. You guys don't give a shit, so I don't care.
The primary rights that we have under society should belong to the person, and I don't believe a fetus is a person.
Okay, so that's very interesting. You don't believe
it's not. It's pretty much the take from everybody.
The fetus is a person. When do you think that it gains personhood, in your opinion?
I mean, it doesn't really fully gain personhood till it's born and able to exist by itself, generally speaking, without some kind of like respirator, right? Like, yes, a baby will die if you don't feed it, but like if it's not hooked, if it can't exist without being hooked up to a machine, that's going to be part of the equation. A lot of people say about 25 weeks, that's when consciousness starts to hit. That's when pain starts to be felt. But you know, if a baby's born and the doctor's like, hey, there's like a 90% chance that this baby is going to live on a tube, and the only thing that they'll be able to do is be used by their mom on TikTok to be able to make money by exploiting them, that unfortunately would be the humanitarian thing to do, to euthanize that child. At that point, I guess you'd consider it a child. But generally speaking, it's 25 weeks. So, you know, first trimester for me, I think is abortion's fine. Second trimester, maybe conditionally. Third trimester, even heavily, more heavily conditionally. You should be able to make that choice by the time the first trimester is over. There you go. So,
Would you agree it's a human life, at least?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, yes, I think that's, I mean, largely, I think that claim is largely like, it's not relevant to the way that I think about it. I think about it in terms of personhood. I mean, I think like, you know, life.
Like it will become a human if you leave it be for the most part. But like, yeah, it's not, it doesn't have, we don't assign it humanity or personhood yet.
Exists all around us. And
Not human, like a human life, but not like, there's not human life in a tree.
Right, correct.
So it's human life.
It's human life.
But it's not a person?
It's not a person.
At which point does it gain personhood and gain the value of being a human?
Well, I think it becomes a person when it's born.
Why? So 5 seconds prior, it's not born yet. Not person. 5 seconds after exits the birth canal.
I think that we don't have to be like hyper specific. I understand what he's saying generally speaking. We could be a little more nuanced than that, but sure.
Person. Is there a magical quality to the birth canal? What is that?
The person becomes separate.
I mean, you literally believe there's a magical quality once sperm hits an egg. Like what's the difference between an abortion and me coming on my wife's stomach? What's the difference? Nothing, really. I guess there's like all my ejaculate are souls that are getting shot into an egg. You know, what's to say that like specifically an egg is a human life? Why don't we just say that all women should have to have all of those fertilized, or else they're doing a disservice to the world? It's human life. What's so magical about my cummies hitting the egg? What does it matter?
From the host that has been that's been growing inside.
Okay, so would you assign that to other human beings that are attached to things? Like, for instance, if I'm attached to a machine, am I a machine now? Am I part of that machine, or am I?
Well, no, because the difference is you were born. There's multiple. Being born is a factor in whether you gain personhood. But if you're attached to a machine and your quality of life is significantly lower, like I'm in favor of some kind of euthanasia, depending on the circumstance. If you're brain dead, somebody being like, okay, let's euthanize this individual, or if you are like, hey, I'm in significant pain, I want to die, I think that's fine too. If you want to have the hospital help you do that. So
still a human life. I just need support in order to stay alive.
If you've never been born and you're growing in, let's say, a test tube, for instance, then yes, I would argue you're not a person yet.
Okay, so it's not really the disconnected part. It's the being born part.
Well, being born means being disconnected from.
This is such a performative conversation. I hate abortion topic conversation because it becomes so stupid. Generally, the tactic is like, let's isolate into like 7 different points. Like, oh, so you believe that part of it's being attached to a machine. Well, what about somebody who's born? It's like, well, being born would make it a person, right? It's like birth is part of the process, right? But okay, it's just always performative. Here's what I know: if you take 5 8-month clumps of cells and you put them in test tubes, and then you take a baby and you put them on a table, and you say one of these groups is going to have to die, you're going to choose the actual baby. The born baby you're going to value over the 8-month test tube. You're going to value the born baby over 16-month fetus. You're going to value the baby more than the 25-month fetuses. That's what you're going to do. That's just the reality. Okay, so you can sit here and you can be like, well, let's over-explain it, but intuitively you understand that fetus is not the same as an actual born baby. Okay, like I said, first trimester for me, second and third based on conditionality. Maybe there's like a harm to the mother or child. Okay, cool beans. Not exactly the hottest take, because after the baby's born, you don't care. You're not. You guys are in support of cutting benefits for babies and children in general. You guys don't want children to eat healthy food. You guys don't want them to have food stamps. You don't want them to have decent education. Care. I don't. So shut the fuck up. Stop pretending you care.
Okay, so you're specifically aligning having the quality of being birthed as what makes someone a person.
No, there's multiple qualities. Like he's already explained.
Person within the context of like our society and civilization.
So just in our
Being birthed, feeling pain, having some level of consciousness, the dependency that it's going to have on a machine, the quality of life it will have in the future based on doctors' predictions. These are all like different factors that need to be acknowledged based on what's going on.
You wouldn't say that objectively that's a person. You would say that we just decide that it's a person because it's birth.
Yeah, rights we give to persons. Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, we dehumanize people in general. Like Hitler's not a person, right? We understand that. So like we have the ability to acknowledge when something is or isn't a person, even if it's a potential human life, or even if it's born. We have the ability to assign personhood or remove personhood, or even to try to advocate for the euthanasia of something based on the quality of life that it might have in the future. It's a lot of nuance here, but most of you guys don't care about kids, so stop pretending.
I guess that's an interesting kind of.
You guys will be like, oh, I care about kids. We have to make sure we birth babies. Make sure I'm pro-life. I'm pro-birth. Keep trans people away from kids or something. Those are so dangerous. But guns, we're not going to care about guns. We're not going to care about welfare. We're not going to care about food stamps for kids. We're not going to care about education for kids. We're not going to care about really anything for kids. Once they're born, I don't care anymore. And also, we're going to create a magical boogeyman of some gay guy in a dress reading to your kid. That's dangerous. But we're going to ignore the pre-sexploitation of children. Guys don't care. You guys don't care. Shut the fuck up.
Definition of what human life and specifically person.
Well, no, I'm conceding that it's human life, but that you're not a person.
It just doesn't have like moral human consideration
until you're born, and you do not have the same like rights that we would give. Like look, we have rights about cruelty to animals, for instance, right? But they're not persons within the context.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that they are, but specifically, it seems like you're just kind of saying, oh, it's a person when it's born, but you're not actually providing any consistent reason for that. You're just saying it just is a person.
I'm saying that on some level, there's a certain amount of like arbitrariness as to when we give rights. Like one could say, like, do you say it's at conception?
Sure, yeah.
So IVF, in other words, would have to be illegal under your principle, because
I mean, I'm not sure that I would agree with IVF in that case. It really depends on the person.
In this situation, you would say that IVF is bad because in IVF they take multiple eggs out, they fertilize them all, and then they choose which ones to implant, and they let the other ones either freeze them or they let them die. So
particulars in that case, but I believe.
What do you mean the particulars?
Well, so for instance, at conception, you would still be a human life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the fertilized egg attaches
to
you.
So is it human life for you, or what?
It's human life, yeah.
Okay, so human life should be protected.
Yes.
Okay, so IVF.
Yeah, I would say that.
So IVF should be illegal under your rubric.
No. So they're human lives, correct?
The IVF is when the egg and the sperm and then they're supplanted.
Yes.
Is it when is it human life?
As soon as it has unique human DNA, that's a human life.
Okay.
So then you would say IVF should be illegal.
So it's a new human, correct?
Now in the IVF process, there's stuff that gets thrown out. Like,
yes.
You would consider that.
Yeah, I'm not even defending IVF or going against it. I'm specifically saying.
Well, you are very afraid to criticize it.
Abortion. That was my claim, right? I'm not going to argue IVF.
But isn't that abortion under your?
I would say if you get rid of human life after conception, I don't think that's moral. I'm not going to argue the IVF particulars because that's not what my claim was, right?
He's running away from this conversation.
When we're talking about laws, right? Because you want to outlaw abortion.
Yes.
Correct?
If you're going to outlaw abortion, then IVF would have to be outlawed as well because you think that once conception happens, it's a baby. So that means IVF is now illegal under your rule or your perspective.
Okay. When we're talking about laws, it's not just morality when we form public policy around and create laws.
Not just, but it should be moral, correct?
Well, I mean, I think like your definition of what constitutes moral and mine are different. For instance, I would prefer in a perfect world not to have abortion on demand until, up until birth, right?
Sure.
In a perfect world. However, we know in practice that when you start to restrict things, like say,
what did you say?
Not to have constitutes moral and mine are different. For instance, I would prefer in a perfect world not to have abortion on demand until, up until birth, right?
Sure.
In a perfect world. However, we know.
I don't really understand what he's saying.
Know in practice that when you start to restrict things, like say, only in the threat of life to the woman, let's say, that's the only way we're going to allow abortions, right? When you start to have these exceptions, they're in practice, they don't work because when
I think you can make exceptions work. I think that you can say, hey, first trimester, generally speaking, second and third, conditional upon certain factors based on what the doctor says. We can make those things work. What are you talking about?
Your life is in jeopardy and you come into a hospital. The doctor doesn't see a bulb that shows up above you and say, like, your life is in jeopardy. It's always a subjective assessment. And
sure, let the doctors make that decision. I don't understand the issue here.
what does life in jeopardy? Hold on. What does life in jeopardy mean? Does it mean a 30% chance of death? Does it mean a 50%, a 70%, or a 20%? That's
You can make that. Make it 50. I don't know. Who cares? This is how we already operate.
why we now have women who are dying because doctors are afraid to perform abortions on them. That's true.
Are you referencing just because some doctors misread plain text doesn't mean that, that it's
when you
all of a sudden
pass
that life
laws,
is less valuable or more valuable?
No, it means that you are subjecting the woman to more risk, and it's impossible. These exceptions are all, they're canards.
No, Christian.
When you oppose a law, it is not just about morality, it's in practice.
Sure,
in practice,
I understand that.
You cannot do this without sacrificing.
Yeah, having the doctors make a decision about worrying about breaking law. Yeah, I agree with that. Sure. I mean, like in New York, that's pretty much how it works. I don't know if there's like any explicit law, but like, yeah, that's how it should work. Like there should be conditionality the further along you are in the pregnancy.
Women's lives because
What
of
about the
your
unborn
morality.
children though? Because
They're not, who cares? They don't have personhood yet.
let's go back to your born
Unborn
thing.
children
So let's
are
say
not
you have
persons,
a 9-month.
and the mother has more rights, in my mind, than the unborn child.
Yeah, that's a claim that you can make. But so a
Yeah, that's a claim I make.
9-month birthed child, or just 9 months and just now born, it's a newborn baby. A 5-month could be emergency C-section and could be birthed, right? Let's say they don't do that. What's the difference between the arbitrary choice of taking that child out of the womb at 6
Why
months?
don't we take all children
No,
out
I'm saying,
at 5
Well, it's not really arbitrary. Usually it's at the when it's finished, it's time in the womb, but okay.
thing is that the personhood just because of birth runs into a problem where it starts to say,
All right, guys.
well,
I hate to do it, but I gotta do it. I'm sorry.
All
That's
right,
time.
that's time. We got our virtue signaling abortion topic from conservatives once again. We always love to hear it.
hey, here's what
I'm glad I was here. It was interesting. I know my questions were more sort of policy oriented, I think, than maybe folks anticipated here, and I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't many people here who could address the policies. They were very, very sure of themselves as to why they voted for Trump, but a lot of it was sort of not material in any way.
So there was stuff that conservatives were saying today that I fundamentally disagreed with my entire heart, but at the end of the day, we're still part of the conservative movement. So I think there are people that I disagreed with, there are people that I completely did agree with, but the cool thing about this new conservative movement and the people here today is it's people from all different walks of life sharing their perspective.
I don't think Sam had at least when I was speaking to him, I don't think Sam really had great responses because the reality is not on his side. I don't think socialism works. I think social programs can be good up to a certain extent, but we are very socialist as a nation, and yeah, I mean,
And we're doing better than ever. We're going to have to implement more welfare programs as technology displaces jobs and drives down wages. I'm sorry.
let's say it again. Socialism does not work. Sorry. Wish it did.
I think debate is healthy, and I think
I think conversation is healthier.
it helps viewers sort of clarify why certain people support certain things, and it gives an opportunity, I think, to both have fun and drama and maybe learn some stuff. So that's always a good thing.
All right, cool, man. Great stuff.